this debate is almost 3 hours long. We are just over the 1 hour mark. So I guess this is the beginning of part 2. Segment 2, begin. Hello, everybody. We're still talking about why you should vote for Biden. Because your alternative is a guy who thinks you can nuke hurricanes and that we could we could basically nuke a country and then say, psych, it was somebody else. We're talking about why you should be involved in electoralism and why it's one tool in your multi-tool of political engagement. It's just one thing you should do out of the many other things you should do. Let's go.
He proved the existence of a voting bloc that the senile f***s in Washington didn't know about before. They didn't care about them. We need to prove that bloc still exists. We can be rowdy. We can argue. We can threaten a wide variety of things. But my job isn't to posture, and I'm not good at theater. So the math stays the same with me. Now, I don't have an issue with people who want to reserve the vote right now. What I have an issue with is the idea that abstemiousness from this process, a lack of participation, or willfulness,
descriptivist,
like disregarding of reality.
The Discord link should go to riverboat.gg. It goes to riverboatjack.gg. What? Okay, I'll fix that. Thank you for letting me know.
With regards to who we're going to get at the end of Election Day, these things bother me because there is hope. I'm not pitching hopelessness. I hope constantly for the work of the people who do stuff in between the elections. I just don't like the idea that the day to take a stand from work to complacency, whether you're doing something or not, is at that voting booth. Because I don't think that. I think that it's a marginal part of political activism.
So you don't think that? So you think that Democrats don't care about losing, but you also think that fascism is inevitable.
And thanks to your quick eye and fast action, descriptivist, that has now been rectified. It should work now.
Trump wins. So how does that track?
How
does it track that Democrats wouldn't care about losing when our democracy hangs in the balance?
I think that
isn't this the best time?
Hello, Spicy Diarrhea, and also a pink and blue shark. Welcome to both of you. State capitalism is a thing. True. When the state seizes control of worker operations and runs them while interfacing in a global capitalist market, it indeed turns into state capitalism. It's one of the flaws of stripping ownership of the workplace away from workers. Why I don't endorse state capitalism or a lot of the justifications of Marxism, Leninism. A lot of the things Marxism, Leninism was designed to address.
Possible.
But have you thought state capitalism is good? I have, and I think it's not good.
To extract concessions from the Democratic Party.
Well,
when they're so under threat.
Because the incentives and motivations the Dems face are a lot more complicated than we give them credit for. One of the reasons why they're so tepid,
and like that's going around, the complications.
Oh, also, just letting you all know, this is just kind of like a little plug. One, remember to hit the follow button on the Twitch page. Remember to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube page. Like the YouTube stream. We have woefully few likes on the YouTube stream. And remember to come on over to riverboat.gg and say hello, because people are nice over there. But I do have to say, oof, only 41 likes on the stream. We could get 9 more. We could get 9 more. I believe in streamers. What I will say is that we have fun here. But if you are a trans person in the audience and you, like, believe yourself to be fashionable or kind of want to be fashionable, and you've had ill-fitting lingerie or very cute underwear issues, consider reaching out to me, because my partner is launching a trans-inclusive brand of lingerie for trans femmes, and it would like your feedback and input. So reach out to me on Discord. All of the exclamation point Discords should work. Should bring you to the Riverboat Jack Discord. You can join that and shoot me a message through there. Thank you, Salmon Moose. Yeah, I don't talk about my partner very much, because she likes privacy. But she studied at one of the best lingerie design schools in the world and is really good at designing underwear. And when she met me, she learned that trans women have issues with cute underwear and fit, and it's great that that problem isn't great, but what's great is she wants to try and fix that. So, yeah. And if you'd like to kind of be on like a preliminary mailing list for stuff about that, again, just hit me up in the Discord. And again, yeah, yes. Let's go. What? Why are you looking at me like that, very knifey duck? All I know is she was a teacher. Yeah, well, she's also a very good and very skilled clothing designer, specifically for lingerie. Like, that's what she studied. Let's go.
One of the reasons they're so tepid on the Israel thing, one of the reasons why their messaging has been inconsistent and shifting.
Hey, Shamanite, welcome to the Discord.
Israel has a heavy degree of corporate and political coordination, both with local police departments and with our military defense contractors, meaning that no matter how powerful the Dems are, it actually is pretty politically risky as a president to call for a ceasefire. Still think he should, mind you, but they're not being abstinent on this issue because they're like willfully negligent or evil. Now, there are people who are drinking the Kool-Aid pretty hard, Fetterman being a good example of them, and there were the Democrats.
I will also point out here that, like, there's a noted difference between Donald Trump, a guy who is so pro-Israel, he has a neighborhood named after him in the Golan Heights, an illegal, Israeli settler community that was annexed by Israel during the Trump administration. And, meanwhile, you have Joe Biden, who is mapping out an end to the invasion of the Gaza Strip in a way that doesn't end in, like, the killing of all the Palestinians or the expulsion of them into Egypt, into the Sinai Desert, which would absolutely result in many of them dying because there's not enough infrastructure to support them there. Like, there's a big difference here between Trump's approach to Palestinians and Joe Biden's approach to Palestinians. He's pushing for a two-state solution. He's disagreeing with the Israeli state line at this point. Because, again, Netanyahu and his war cabinet want to get rid of all Palestinians in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Like, that was explicitly part of the plan. We know that from leaked internal memos. And honestly, the difference here between Biden and Trump and the diplomatic pressure that is being applied might mean the difference between, like, Palestinians being able to remain in the Gaza Strip or not. Which is not at all to say that, like, Biden is doing enough, obviously. I pronounce Sinai like cyanide. Fuck.
Who voted to censure Rashida Tlaib. So, like, I'm not arguing that they're all, like, unwillful participants with their hands bound. What I'm saying is we have to acknowledge that there's more at stake here than just whether or not, like, the voters, or sorry, the Dems hate their voters, you know? We
even the majority of Republicans support a ceasefire as of the last polling I saw.
Yeah, no, it's a huge wedge, and we can be really good about this wedge, too. We can be really, really effective in trying to drive the Dems left. And at the moment, we're winning. We are more pro-Palestinian than we ever have been in all of human history. Well, I say human history. It's only 100 years. Since the conflict began, American voters have never been this pro-Palestinian. The fact that half of Republican voters are going for that, insane.
Do you think that a vote for Joe Biden is a pro-Palestinian vote?
I mean, compared to Donald Trump, I think it's a less anti-Palestinian
You think so?
vote. Yeah, Trump has said stuff that leads me to believe he would be much more hawkish.
I mean, isn't the action?
Yeah, I don't think Trump's gonna have any good policies on that.
I don't think he is either. But I don't see how you could possibly call a vote for Joe Biden.
I mean, I don't think there's a pro-Palestinian vote here.
There isn't, and that's part of the problem.
There are two anti-Palestinian candidates, though I do think one of them is meaningfully worse than the other. I just think it's the Palestinian thing. Like I said, this is a tough time.
I don't know how meaningful it is, but I'll agree there is maybe some difference.
I agree that it's not super meaningful. Like, this is an issue where there seems to be a pretty strong bipartisan consensus to be like ghoulish on this specific matter. I just I think
against the will of the American people, by the way.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's, I think that's largely a corporate thing. I think that's because for decades politicians have weaponized disingenuous accusations of anti-Semitism as a way of shutting up political opponents, not because they care about Jews, but rather because in the legacy
Are they serious
of the
right now?
Holocaust,
Yep.
people still understand fundamentally that anti-Semitism is a big no-no in a way that we haven't really done with other kinds of racial or ethnic bigotry, because we tend to codify those, and anti-Semitism gets called out for what it is or sometimes what it isn't. So there's a lot of like social there, but the left is leading the charge on the right end of this issue, right? And there are meaningful consequences to that. The White House is buckling under pressure. We know that. Staffers have admitted to it anonymously when talking to the news. Like, there are people
that support our position of withholding your boisterous immediate support for candidates and extracting concessions by being loud and unapologetic about your opposition to their genocide?
I'm totally okay with you guys, with everyone.
Why don't you do it? Because you have been openly just not only saying that you plan to vote for Biden no matter what, but encouraging your fan base to do it too, which kind of doesn't give you a whole lot of leverage when it comes to it. Definitely dumbs down the leverage, don't you think?
I think
again, the idea that like Joe Biden or the Democrats at large or their pollsters are like furiously looking at like lefties and being like, do you think they'll go for it? Oh no, they're deploying leverage. The idea that these people think that that's how this works is childish.
I think that the opposite doesn't give any leverage either, because as I said before, that would just incentivize them.
Yeah, no, they're basically saying force the vote, but on the federal level, you know, by using your personal vote.
To go after a moderate voting base.
I mean, your voice is reaching the halls of power. Where you were just at the White House, weren't you?
I advocate for harsh criticism and pushback, but at the end of the day, I think the best way to advocate for that, in my particular position, is to refer to the voting interests of others as a general bloc.
I just don't see what the incentive to give a shit about the harsh. I mean, like.
If we just
okay, that's clearly a technical snafu, right?
And his his molasses-like lack of mobility on this issue. That he looks at popular creators like yourself that are basically saying what TJ just said.
I mean, let's be honest, Biden's not watching Vaush. So.
But I'm saying
sure he is. I've seen a picture of it.
The people that handle Biden, the advisors and the speech writers and the policy wonks, they are watching Vaush. Look, they're not only watching Vaush, they're watching Hassan, they're watching Destiny, they're watching social media trends.
They're watching Riverboat Jack.
Where this type of shit is rampant. Biden 2024, baby, before the presidency is 2 days old. That doesn't really engender you a whole lot of leverage when times like this pop up.
The impression that I've gotten from the data that I've looked at and the tendencies in the halls of power seem to be that threatening to withhold votes does basically nothing. It does not encourage the Dems to go further left-leaning.
You just said...
So it just helps them write us off. However, there are good reasons to pressure them, and there are things that they can be incentivized with that aren't us directly threatening.
What are you pressuring them with?
You don't think Democrats are threatened by like people withholding votes from them? Like, that doesn't make sense. Politicians
hold on. I want you to explain.
Almost more than anything else is people to vote for them.
Vaush, please explain to me.
Like again, this is in this scenario, right? They're pretending like there aren't other people in the equation that are much easier to get votes from, right? Like they're suffering from like protagonist syndrome here. They're not the center of like the political movement of or political existence of these politicians, you know? Anonymous Gifter, thank you for gifting a sub to Forlorn79. Yeah, you have to primary them to put pressure on them. You have to protest them. You have to picket them. You have to, like, call their offices. You have to actually be a pain in their ass. And that takes work, frankly.
I mean, how you're pressuring them.
Specifically, people on the left withholding votes. The Democrats...
Well, I'm not talking about just the left. I'm talking about a broader movement of America.
I know, but I am on the left. And
Sure.
the tendency to reject the bipartisan framework can be justified differently depending on where you are in the political spectrum. If there are moderates who are withholding from the electoral process because they feel like there's no real difference no matter who wins, that's a different issue than this specific dynamic, this engagement. I think ultimately there are two main things to threaten with, okay? One is, as a progressive issue becomes more popular, the more legitimate the threat becomes that Democrats being bad in it will lose moderate voters. This has been how we've won most of the positive shifts in the Dems over the past few decades. Not by arguing people on the left want it. Who cares what the left wants? A bunch of college students, degenerates, and sodomites? No. What they care about is, does the median voter care? And the median voter, by default, this person doesn't exist, but we can extrapolate. If that person doesn't care at all, whatever. But if they can be made to care, like, for example, with gay or trans rights being made a majority issue rather than a marginal issue, then suddenly it becomes politically popular. Notice how Hillary Clinton went from thinking marriage is between a man and a woman to thinking that gay marriage is acceptable, and Obama as well. Like, that marker, that was the 50% marker. As soon as the median voter cares, that's what the Dems care about. That's what I threaten with. Your position on this,
well, by that standard, they should have already flipped on Israel.
It's only been a month. I genuinely think something's going to happen soon. Because
it's only been a month of the most brutal bombing campaign in modern history.
Keep in mind, we're talking about a paradigm.
More bombs.
The machinery and bureaucracy of America does not respond quickly to sudden, unexpected protests. I guarantee you, people within the current administration did not expect the American people to respond as strongly as they did to Israel's war with Hamas and just war crimes against the people of Gaza, right? They did not expect that. They are reeling. And the fact that our bureaucracy is moving this fast within a month, you know, a bureaucracy that can take years to do anything, is telling you that they are trying desperately to recalibrate where they are and what their response is. Yeah, no, they 100% thought the American people would like rally behind Israel and be completely complicit with the war crimes Israel is inflicting upon the Palestinian people. They genuinely believed that and thought that, and I'm happy to say we have proven them wrong. It's one of the first. I mean, like, it's a colossal outpouring of support in a way for Palestinians in a way that I never thought was possible, and it's beautiful to see. So the gears of progress are turning. They should turn faster. In a just world, they would. But we don't have a just world. We have the world we live in. But thankfully, instead of what Trump would do, the Democratic Party is, by and large, trying to shift gears rapidly. Again, not fast enough. Jank sweep. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I wonder if I have it on this computer, if it's on my other work computer. Did I make it on this computer? Oh, I didn't do it. Damn it. I made the Jeb meme, but with Jank. It's a pretty good one. I like it a lot. Oh wait, maybe I can just download it from here. Yes! Excellent. We got it. It's a thumbnail for one of the videos that's coming up. I love it. I'm very proud of it. Anyway, you can look forward to that one in a couple days. Oops, all jank. Why orange? Frankly, because it was the easiest one to like color replace that looked, you know, better than red or blue. I don't know. Does it radiate the same power as Jeb's JoJo pose? It doesn't, but I kind of am in love with, like, hey, everybody, it's me, Jank.
Bombs dropped in the first day of this war.
We
dropped in the first year on Afghanistan.
I know that.
We're talking about like a 10-mile wide strip of land. The devastation is utterly unreal. It's only been a month.
I know that, yes.
It's not even something that you can say, dude.
Like, this outrage, I think, is warranted and justified, but at the same time, it is an outrage that, while it should continue to exist, like, needs to be better directed, right? Like, the fact that our political machinery is moving so slowly, like, that is something, especially regarding, like, war crimes and genocide, something that we need to be pains in the asses about to our government. But, like, we need to be able to focus that. It's not, we can't just be like, it's not going fast enough, like, to nobody. We need to make it's not going fast enough. We need to make the bureaucracy isn't changing fast enough to counter the ongoing slaughter of Palestinians. We need to make that a pain in the ass issue for our politicians. And I think a lot of people are doing a really good job of that right now. Not voting Trump, but now Def not voting Biden. Hey, friend, more power to you.
About an unprecedented.
I only care about people who would have otherwise voted Biden voting Biden.
Paradigm shift on one of the most, like, untouchable geopolitical issues in the past half century of American politics. For
you either die a hero or live long enough to become the Jib. Can someone make the Harvey Dent Two-Face meme, but with Jeb's face?
In the space of a single month, to go from that being like an untouched issue to there being mass protests and popularity for Democrats plummeting even with moderates, that can take some time. I could be wrong. It's possible they don't respond well to this pressure, and that also wouldn't surprise me because, again, there's a lot of, like, corpo shit involved here. But I do think there's still a possibility that there is a move here. And also, the other big thing we threaten them with is the popularity of the issues they push for. I do agree that on average, like, politicians want to get voted in. Like, you know, that's kind of their thing, even if they don't necessarily seek the far left as a stable voting base. And as a consequence,
probably not a great one to go for.
Yeah, they're looking to edge in things that are popular. The
fact that Vaush has had so much patience here is actually astounding to me. Like, he's giving them so much patience.
Popular certain things are, the more comfortable they'll be supporting them, even if there's opposition. A good example of this would be climate change issues. Climate change has been a known issue for well over half a century, but only in the past few decades has the popular understanding of climate change gotten to a point where Democrats, who have always, not always, but for a while now, known about the issue and kind of, teeter-tattered at the edge of it, but not really committed to it. Now, Joe Biden, he's not perfect at it, but the shift in rhetoric from now to even like early Obama or hell, late Clinton, massive. And a lot of that is just because they know it's popular enough that they can get away with it in spite of the potential corporate harm. So let's
cancel the big pipeline and then make a bunch of little pipelines, Jack. That isn't the win that you're selling here to me.
Can you engage with what I've said and not with
I'm engaging with what
potential
you said.
Counterexamples?
I don't care what the rhetoric from Biden is. The rhetoric in the lead up to this, when he was trying to convince people to vote for his old decrepit warmongering racist ass, was I'm going to get you $15 minimum wage. I'm going to get you a $15 minimum wage.
Your indignant betrayal at him not fulfilling every campaign promise like every other politician ever means nothing to me. His rhetoric and his policies have been better on climate than were in the past.
I don't know what's worse, my indignant betrayal or your placid acceptance.
So
that
no,
that's
listen. This is you. This is
like imagine hearing someone say, "Hey, you need to vote, and you need to vote for harm reduction." And then also, once you've finished voting, you need to go out and actually roll up your sleeves and do something to organize people in your community politically. You know, volunteer for your local elections. Maybe consider running for office yourself. Like, it can be a part-time job thing. You know, like, consider doing something and getting involved. Show up to the school board meetings. Because otherwise, like, you know, your vote, like, that's where the real change happens. The vote isn't where the real change happens. Pressuring politicians to follow through, to actually do what they promised during their campaigns. Hounding them until they actually do the things that will help people. That's where the real change happens. And that's entirely on activists' shoulders, unfortunately. Because that's the dynamic at play here.
This is the child tossing their dinner off the table.
Yeah,
I am
you
not
love calling people
I
children.
am not
You've done that one
accepting.
already.
No, I am not accepting.
And like on the flip side, like even if you're not organizing, like like having a platform and a show where you're actively discouraging people from engaging meaningfully in the political process, like that's deeply infuriating to me, right? Like you're an advocate for apathy. What is this, Salmon Moose? I'm scared. Okay. Fuck them windmills. Thank you. I love it. I love it. You guys.
I'm not a fucking child.
When
kid.
I state the fact
Beverly Hills
that
fucking
Biden's
piece of shit.
rhetoric
Dude,
and
call me a fucking
policies.
child, you bitch.
Wait, be less emotional, okay?
I've done more
here,
fucking.
right?
I've done more stand-up labor than your lily white Beverly Hills ass has ever done. Don't call me a child on my show.
Okay, then, like
Go
an
fuck
adult,
yourself.
listen to what I have to say.
I will
right?
as soon as you
It is
agree to
not-
stop being a shit.
Can you show me then? Listen, okay? Like a child myself, I lack object permanence, so I need to witness you.
God damn, Vaush. Like a child myself, I lack object permanence.
You not act like one for 5 seconds while I talk, all right? You can say it's acceptance, it's reality. The rhetoric and the policy have gotten better, and it's a product of public acceptance. You providing examples of Biden doing bad things or saying that rhetoric itself isn't enough, these are not meaningful counterarguments, okay? Things have gotten better. I'm arguing for hope. I'm arguing for a process that makes things happen.
You got a weird way of arguing for hope. Life is suffering, and you just got to accept it and suck it up because that's just the way it is, Jack. Man.
And now we...
Yeah. We are all Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill. Like, life is hard sometimes. And one of the things that is hard, far harder than being apathetic. Like, there's nothing that hits me in just the wrong way. Like, people who pretend that apathy is like some radical idea. Ah, yes, have you considered doing nothing? Like, what are you talking about? Like, and if you the worst part is this person seems so slippery that if you brought that up to them, they'd be like, oh, I'm not apathetic. I care so much. But like, if you care so much, then you should be using every tool of political engagement at your disposal. And literally the easiest one to use is your vote. And if you're voting for a third party, if you're voting for a write-in candidate, you are just not on the radar of the two power brokers. You're like two squabbling urchins in the gutter, like fighting over a coconut. Meanwhile, your overlords in the castles are making the actual power brokering decisions about all of the coconut distribution. What I'm talking about here is Coconut Kingdom. And you need to get involved in the internal court intrigue of Coconut Kingdom. Otherwise, you're just on the street and you don't know what's happening. Let's go.
That's some real thin gruel hope you've got there that you're selling.
And now we have weekends. Now we get to enjoy.
Yeah, for how? No, do we really though?
Yes.
See, you haven't held a 9 to 5 before. I don't know what a weekend.
Like withholding your vote is like, you're like standing in someone's office and you're like, if you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to shit my own pants. I'm gonna push a shit out between my cheeks and into the fabric of my pants. And you know what? There's nothing you can do about it unless you do what I say. And the other person's like, oh, okay, shit your pants, I guess. I don't care. I've got people I need to call. I'm a lawyer. This is a law firm, and the people I'm calling are 911. Now get out, you crazy hobo. Like, this is they don't care. It's not leverage. Yeah, spicy diarrhea, like, I don't know Vaush like super well, but I'm pretty sure his dad was like a working like special effects animator in Hollywood or something along those lines.
And Saturday was just a day of the week to me when I worked my jobs.
Yeah, and that's
so
rough.
It's
a shame you've turned your back on the proletarian interest now. We have
turned my back on it because I started my own business. Go fuck yourself.
Okay.
Bitch.
Do you believe that there is value?
No, he's saying that you've turned your back on the working class because you're advocating for an anti-working class strategy. That's why he's saying you don't care about the working class, not because you own your own business, dipshit.
You in pushing and suffering for a good political outcome, even if it takes a lot of time, as every bit of progress we've ever enjoyed has happened before.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. They agree.
So all I'm saying is most of the good things that we enjoy today were not born of some big, decisive, sweeping rejection of the status quo. They were usually, but this is like revolutionary fantasizing. It's something that a lot of people fall into when they feel doomer. What actually tends to happen is that a bunch of cynical people drop out, get injured, become alcoholics, and die at home, whereas the people delusional enough to cling on to hope in spite of all contrary evidence actually make the change. People who go in every day, no matter how bad it seems, and work and work and work, and they fight, and the cops show up and they bust their union, and they shoot their union lead, but they keep coming back for more, and then eventually, one day, there's enough public pressure that something happens. But that
You're
process
like Mother
is
Teresa,
suffering.
you know that? You essentialize suffering. Oh my God. It's the people that grind their lives away while the boot is on their neck.
That's not essentializing them. That's just the reality. The people who struggle the hardest are the people who are the most downtrodden. Like, they're the ones who scrabble more at the boot. Like, that's just the dynamic between the classes.
Neck constantly with little to no relief ever. That are the lionize that a little more without ever having experienced it.
We all suffer. Some of us suffer for a reason.
Okay, all right.
Thank you,
okay,
Jesus.
all right, bro.
Is that too messianic? The idea that we have to work for good political outcomes, is that too like optimistic and hopeful?
When have we advocated for not working for political outcomes? We're just we're talking about tactics here, bro.
Yeah, your tactic is bad. That's the entire point of the conversation. It's ineffective. The tactic, the person you're trying to use that tactic on doesn't care if you follow through on your threat. and doesn't view your threat as actual leverage. And they'll just move on to court other more likely voters. That's the calculus of political organizing. Like, your tactic doesn't effectively extract concessions. But if you vote for Biden, you are more able to actually, you know, pressure him to do things. God.
You seem like really invested in this idea that me and TJ are advocating for, like, oh, let's just sit around on our asses because nothing matters anyway. I know that's the easier thing to argue against, but the fact that you've spent such a profound amount of this appearance on our show tonight misrepresenting our position and tilting against windmills, I don't know how to tell it. Let me put it explicitly for you. I am not advocating for people to do nothing political. I am not advocating for people.
And to his credit, he's not. He's just saying, ignore this entire tool in your tool chest of doing things that are political. That's not useful. This part is interesting because I don't think TJ and co. Haven't really made affirmative statements. Has TJ said anything this whole time? Yeah, he's been getting progressively quieter, I think.
People to sit around on their hands and do nothing. I'm not even advocating for people not to vote. I know, must be shocking, right? What I'm advocating for...
I don't think Vaush ever brought up his business. I think he just, like when Vaush was talking about, like, the plight of the worker, that just kind of went over his head and he thought he was talking about his business, I guess.
Is for people like you and I and everybody else to stop focusing so much on re-electing Democrats and to maybe think about the tactics and the power, the little bit of power that we do have within that system. Maybe start using that in a smart way. And maybe start building something else.
Like what?
Now, if that's childlike,
again, you have to have an answer of what. What would you build that would be better? Otherwise, you're just like, I don't know, something. Anything's better than this. Like, you actually have to have an answer to that question.
Apologies. If that's fantasy-like, my apologies. If that's too hopeful, my apologies. That's who I am. That's what I hope for. That's what I advocate for. So have I cleared up your confusion on my position?
Look, in 1920, Lenin wrote a letter addressing and regarding British workers and their relationship to the British Labour Party. He thought the Labour Party was a bourgeois institution full of social democratic cowards that weren't capable of getting the work needed done. But he advocated that people vote for them and engage in their political processes nonetheless. He did this because despite being as much of a hardline revolutionary as anyone could reasonably be called, given the fact that he led one, he believed that there was value in sheltering under legitimate political organizations that were meaningfully better.
That was demons. What the hell was that? You guys can still hear me, right? Nope. No, you can't. Wait. Oh, it is very delayed. That is very delayed. Maybe it's an issue with my audio device. We back, bitches. Maybe, yeah, honestly, what I've found is that the Focusrite external like USB things are really finicky, and I feel like they can absolutely destroy like your entire computer due to like the weird connection they have. Wait, you can't hear me right now? Yeah, it's connected by not USB hub, but the USB like audio managing hardware that I have connects to my computer via USB. And yeah. Okay, you can hear me. Good. Are you plugging them into a hub? Not this device, no. Synced to? Awesome. That was really weird. I'm glad the computer didn't shut down. Maybe I need to buy another device. Like a new device, I guess. Oh, excuse me. All right, but we're good to go. Here we shall continue.
Better than the alternatives and doing good work within them. I disagree with Lenin on basically everything he's ever said or done, with the exception perhaps of this. This is how work is done. Lenin knew to work with liberals in Russia when fighting against the Tsar. Mao knew to work with the government when fighting against Japanese colonizers when they invaded. In all points...
What about Marx?
Marx said that communism could be achieved in America non-violently through voting. I'm not joking.
Yeah, Marx also said that you were only to work with the corporatist parties when the outcome for workers was assured, and you could use them basically as puppets.
Yes, and as we've seen time and time again...
That's not what you're advocating for. You're advocating for voting for our oppressors.
The difference between Republicans and Democrats with regards to workers' rights is assured. I'm not arguing for complicity or for acceptance. I'm arguing for the strategic use of the platform and the power available to us to get stuff done. Every bit of good change that we have ever seen in this country has been a product of this strategy. I'm not arguing for complacency. I'm arguing for its opposite. I'm arguing for intelligent engagement with and deconstruction of these systems. One of these requires that fascists not win. That is a prerequisite. Under fascism, we will be killed. Not we in the broad general sense. I mean me and you. We will not live through that, assuming that we don't just flee, which I would, because I have the money to. There are lots of people watching this who would be killed and couldn't flee. I think that maintaining...
Yeah, for the record, I'm not one of those people. I wish I was rich. I can't. I'm stuck here. I'm stuck here. So
then we have to not shit where we eat then. It is very important, at the very least, to maintain the baseline platform upon which good advocacy can be built. If nothing else, liberal democracy. Liberal democracy, this is the battlefield socialists most flourish in. This is where we make our difference. If we are trying to fight within a fascist system, the secret police come for us. If we're trying to fight within a monarchy, the secret police come for us. It is only under a liberal democracy that we are given the space necessary to even argue our positions. These positions take time to flourish. I'm not asking you guys be happy with the Dems, and I can't force you to vote for anyone. I'm
like, I like at the bare minimum, we need the ability to make our country better. And that becomes an impossibility under fascism until we literally overthrow the US military. So, like, there's a meaningful difference in preserving American democracy, as flawed as it is. Like, if you want to organize politically, do you think, like, having to hide out in basements and, like, worry about getting yourself or your loved ones killed, do you think that makes it easier to organize for left-leaning causes? No! Trump literally tried to overthrow democracy! We need to have at least the option of being better in the future.
I'm only saying that there is value and meaningful difference in a presidency under Biden versus under Trump. And that's the main thing I want to stress. Not who you vote for, but when you compare, oh, he's a shit versus he's a shit with like frosted cupcakes or whatever.
If this were an election that was just like, hey, I'm just looking at this in isolation. I'm looking only at this one election. Then I would have to agree with you. I'd have to. I think it's completely rational when there are two candidates and one is a little bit better than the other to vote for the one that's a little bit better. If that's all you're looking at in isolation. But my problem is down the line. My problem is every election that follows. Because I'm just scared that
if your issue is every election that follows, then you need to be doing everything in the middle between this upcoming election and the next one. You need to actually put in the work to improve the candidates. However that looks from wherever you are. Like, that's the entire point of the 4 years we have between, like, our elections. Oh, well, what about the next election and the next one? We get stronger! We get stronger for the next election. We get stronger for the one after that. We keep getting bigger, stronger, and more effective. That's what we do until we are able to change. And if we suffer setbacks, then we suffer setbacks, and we continue working to get bigger and better and more effective. God! This isn't even rocket science. This isn't even scooter science. This is just wheel science.
Like, right now, we're not willing to hold the Democrats to any standard. I'm not just talking about the left here. I'm talking about Democratic voters across the board. Anybody who's ever voted for a Democrat. And I voted for Joe Biden in 2020.
Oh, sorry, I thought you could do. No, I understand. I just don't think if it means threatening that the Republicans win, then it's a non-starter. What we're essentially doing is we're arguing
But my problem is this. I'm sorry, I was just hearing some audio piping in from somewhere. I wasn't sure where it's coming from.
Okay.
The thing is this. I mean, I'm just kind of scared that somewhere down the line, the Republican Party is going to win. It's going to be, I mean, look how divided the country is now in terms of this vote. So I'm just scared that if it's not this election cycle, it's the next election cycle or the one after that, and they're going to be just as far right as they are right now because no one's ever showed that they need to be anything other than that. And if we can all agree, I think that the Republican Party has moved right. You agree it was a neocon party, an election cycle or two ago.
Yes.
So what my big fear is just like, we've seen that the Republican Party is moving right. And, the criteria being put forth is that we're just going to vote for Democrats as long as they're to the left of Republicans. So let's say this trend continues. Republican Party moves further and further right. The Democrat Party is free to move further and further right itself because they're
not.
This is a child's interpretation of politics.
Baseline moves right, so can they. They're free. It's like the ratchet effect. They're free to move in one direction, and there's no pressure to pull them in the other direction. So,
but that's not.
Yeah, I don't understand, Lady Rainclad. I don't understand the particular species of brainworm that elicits this idea of radical apathy. I don't understand where it comes from. I don't understand the breed of worm, but it's terrible, and I hate it.
Happening. They've been moving left like considerably.
I guess you could maybe argue on a few fronts.
I mean,
this is an issue where I will invoke complicatedness and say, like, whether the Democrat Party has moved left or right is kind of a complicated issue because I think they've moved left on some things,
on the issue.
They've moved right on others.
Well, it depends on the issue. Like gay marriage, I mean, overall America's...
And then it depends on where you're starting from, because if you're starting from Clinton, you could say, well, maybe they've moved left considerably on a few things. If you're starting from pre-Clinton Democrats, you'd have to say they've moved right on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they're a frame of reference.
Economically, of course, like Roosevelt is to their left. I'm not denying that. But the current shift is towards the...
I'm angry at voters because voters make the decisions at the election, in the electoral booth. That's why I'm angry at other voters. And also, I'm angry at everyone else. I'm angry all the time. It's my secret. It's how I'm able to get up here every day and do a show about politics. Because I'm angry.
the left. I don't think that there's like a broad, like people are more polarized now than they have been before. For me, it's like it's like you're on a very narrow cliff edge. You're like shimmying along with your back to the wall, and you're trying not to fall in front of you. And falling forward is the Republicans, and continuing to shimmy is the Dems. And you would do anything to get out of that situation, but the only thing that works right now is continuing to shimmy. Maybe down the line the cliff abruptly slopes out, and there's not a big drop. Maybe if you go far enough, the ledge that you're shimmying on it widens and you can walk normally. There's maybe things can happen in the future. Maybe circumstances change, like you see like a rock embedding that you can climb onto and you can like escape the situation altogether. Right now there's only the ledge and a very long drop. I don't think that nothing can be done while operating within this duopoly. I think that even if we just accept the idea that Democrats have to win because Republicans' victory is unthinkable, you can still get a lot of good work done. And I think that we should all be wary that in the future there might be like a wedge that can be used. There might be a point. But right now, like, every trend is pointing towards the strength of the duopoly. We can rage against that all we want. We can say, oh, if only people would do this, but they're not. Like we operate in, like, if only everyone would just be communist. Like we operate in probabilistic trends. We have to understand what people are likely to do and operate within that, because if we do the opposite, you know, we're throwing ourselves off the ledge prematurely.
If we're consigned to a duopoly, then shouldn't we advocate for the strongest Democratic Party that's the most in line with our values as possible? And embracing some really
there's lots of
ideas that most Americans agree with. Now, obviously, there are some ideas on the left that most Americans don't agree with, but there's plenty that they do. So why not try to get the Democratic Party to embrace those ideas specifically?
Yeah, primary.
And why not try to do that by saying, hey, if you want my vote, you have to earn it because that's the thing you want the most from me.
Well, for sure. You've got to primary them.
So the time to do that is just in the primaries. And then when the general election comes along, no threat there. I'm just
literally, yes. That's the point of the primaries. Yeah, that's the time.
Okay.
But there will be no primaries this year, sorry. Yeah, I don't think that the presidential.
Okay, I heard it again. 1 second. I'm gonna see if this fixes issues. I'll be back. Okay. Maybe this will help. Maybe I had like a bad USB port. That was just kind of like a faulty connection here between my audio device and the rest of my computer. Well, hopefully that solves the issue. I'll smoke the devil's wax instead. Drago, I appreciate you and your presence. I'm out of sync? Wait, am I? Hello? Wait, are you guys noticing a desync? No? Okay. All right. Continuing on.
Vote. The presidential vote is very uncomplicated and very important. It's like choosing to keep the lights flipped on, basically. You can do all the electrical work in your garage that you want. You can build whatever you want. You have all the time in the world. But every 4 years, you have to keep the light switch on. And
Thanks,
right now,
Shindig.
like the darkness, if we ever allow it to overtake us, might not be fixable. I mean, given enough time, anything is fixable. You know, the Third Reich only lasted, what, 15 years? But I really, really don't think that would be, like, an effective vehicle for positive change.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit more alarmist, but I feel like the woods are burning and we need to immediately intercede in every way that we possibly can. And that doesn't preclude not voting for Democrats. That doesn't preclude not trying third-party options. I think everything's on the table because I think that now more
There's a very mild delay in the milliseconds. Okay, I will try adjusting. All right. This is as good as I'm going to get it.
than ever, the substantive, like the most substantive issues in my mind that we face are not being addressed. Climate change is, you know, you kind of tried to back Pat Biden on that, but I don't think he's
his opponent. The other option that is on the table literally calls it a Chinese hoax. You think he's going to be better for the environment? You think we can afford just the environment? You think we can afford 4 more years of Donald Trump actively fighting against like climate change measures? Come on now.
On the environment, despite what overtures he might have made.
Only said he's been better.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think better matters right now.
It does,
I think we need a paradigm shift. No, it
better matters until the paradigm shift happens. And if you are arguing that the paradigm shift should be the strongest and best armed and most nuclear country on earth gets taken over by fascists, that's a hell of a paradigm shift. It's great that you are comfortable rolling the dice on the fate of billions of lives.
Doesn't.
Every climate activist in the world would disagree with you. Like, you can check their statements.
every biologist and geologist and climatologist in the world would disagree with you.
No, they wouldn't.
Band-aids aren't.
Wait, no, they would. Wait,
helping.
why would you say that? They would absolutely advocate Trump over or Biden over Trump, like 100%, like with almost no exceptions.
They might advocate for Biden over Trump with no exceptions. I'm saying they wouldn't agree on like little bit better.
Notice how you just acknowledged that all of the world's experts on this matter would advocate for Biden, and he's still being like, but that's not good enough. Bro, even in your example, you're disagreeing with all of the world's climate experts.
They're being meaningful at this point.
First of all, I didn't say that. Second of all, it's not a little bit better. Trump flat out denies the existence of climate change. And third of all, I think they would argue that even if things don't go perfectly, it's better for things to be a bit better than it is for them to be not better at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see it from that perspective.
Then don't invoke theirs, because they do care.
Maybe my understanding of the seriousness of climate change is incorrect.
It is serious, which is why we shouldn't accept worse people being the president on it.
Yeah. it's a difference of like multiple years of like warming at high intensity. Like it could be in the difference between the existence of of many island nations or not. Like it significantly matters.
I've heard with them is advocating for change now. That's the main thing I've heard when I've read articles and they've interviewed people who are really into this issue of climate change. That's mainly what I hear.
Dramatic change now.
Yes,
like limiting emissions and trying to stop it from raising 2 degrees Celsius, or or the catastrophic consequences that the planet's going to bear, or I guess humanity. I mean, the planet itself will probably be.
Well, I agree, and they also want Biden to win. Many climate advocates and organizations advocates and organizations are like almost militantly pro-Democrat, because the difference between
that wouldn't surprise me.
And no, like really, you can look between it, like the Republicans don't even believe in science. Like the official perspective from Republicans isn't just that climate change isn't real. They just flat out do not believe in any federal engagement with science.
I've talked to plenty of them. I know they say climate change is like so-called climate change, and you're like, it's not so-called. It's far from it.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats are still a pro-corporate party, but at the very least, a conversation can be had with them. Like there are interviews that have been done with like climate scientists or like EPA administrative experts who are basically like, yeah, the Dems don't do enough. But when I worked under the Trump White House, like if you went to talk to them, they would just flat out like not listen. Like you would talk to them and they go
awful.
Like, yeah, they go like, and then you just get turned away. And your job was just to sit there collecting a paycheck and desperately trying to keep data as the world ends. Biden's a huge step up from that. I know the bar is low, but again, like that's why we can't hit that low bar. You know,
I don't
the bar is low. Let's not hit it.
I don't think we can afford how low the bar has dropped. We're in the midst of a
we need James Cameron.
Yeah, it needs to there needs to be cataclysmic change, and it needs to happen like 20 years ago.
Well, we can't.
We're fucked.
We can't time.
Yeah, but the best time to start trying to change is now. You know, it's a trite saying, but like you got to start now. Otherwise, your kids are just going to be 100,000 times more fucked, and they're going to hate you.
Time travel, and there's only going to be 2 presidential candidates in 2024, so we do what we can with what we have.
I mean, there's going to be more than 2 presidential candidates in
the final,
2
viable presidential,
But I mean, let me just ask you this:
only 2 in all of America. Only 2 people.
Let me ask you this, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of wackos that think they're going to be president. Of course.
Let me just ask you another question here. You might understand. I mean, you definitely have a better understanding of civics, stuff like that. So, I just want to ask. So, let's say all of America lost its mind, right? Everybody in America lost their mind, and we all just decided, like, we're all going to go vote for Jill Stein, and she wins in a landslide, right? At that point, yes or no, does Jill Stein become president?
What?
You mean if she legitimately won the popular vote?
Yeah. If she won the electoral college.
Electoral college, yeah.
I think so. I don't think she'd get very much done, but I think that the corporate superstructures that keep the lights on in this country.
I understand the hypothetical. My question is, why is the hypothetical? What is this doing here?
I think they can operate mostly without the president. Like, even if the president just flat out doesn't play
my only question is, like, how is
Congress
the case that only Democrats and Republicans are viable then if the voters could choose something else?
Because that's who people vote for. They're popular because they're popular. It's tautology.
So it's all, like, you admit it's just like an Ouroboros of shit forever eating. It's like a turd forever eating itself.
Yeah, it's historical inertia. I mean, that's the case with pretty much all political parties. I don't think there's
most of human history.
Yeah, they root themselves in, like, they have like specific like corporate relationships, and like their name recognition's a big one. Like,
well, maybe that's something we could try to change, though.
Well, that
do a little differently.
I agree with. I think that, like, this is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of independents running Democrat in main elections, because I think that in that way you benefit from the soapbox, but at the same time you can be like, yeah, and if you want more like out there populist takes, take a look. I think you can legitimize it a lot that way. Like, that's why Bernie ran as a Dem, of course. If he ran as an independent back in 2016, he wouldn't have come even close, because he wouldn't have gone to the debates. He wouldn't have thrown Hillary Clinton to the left.
It was clearly a deliberate choice. I mean, he's an independent and he caucuses with the Democrats. It was clearly a deliberate choice.
Yeah, I think it's like being a leech to the power, really. I mean, that's what Lenin advocated for, you know, like he distrusted the Labor Party, which I guess he should have, considering what it turned out to be. But like in the meantime, you can go to their meetings, show up at their debates, change people's minds, and you know, that doesn't put you on top immediately, but it makes you a lot healthier than you used to be. It was only 20 years ago that the socialist movement in America was dead and silent. I mean, properly. Like, the closest thing we had to populist left-leaning activism back in the early 2000s was like the anti-Iraq war protests, and that wasn't leftist. That was just left of center, really, in terms of...
Like, again, if the concern here is breaking the two-party duopoly, the focus has to be on the state level, because the states dictate how elections are run and can adopt first-past-the-post voting systems. If you don't have first-past-the-post...
You caught me off guard, but thank you so much.
Aww.
I appreciate you so much, and chat is amazing and full of goofy goobers, yeah.
I really like the goofy goobers in chat, and thank you so much, Drago Vitricordis, for the $10 dono. And you're a big sweetie, and I love seeing you in chat. All right. Getting closer. Appreciate y'all.
Leftist engagement.
Thank you.
It was dead quiet. And now, like, you go into any downtown city street, and you are tripping over flyers and pamphlets from local, like, Antifa or socialist organizers. Like, it's crazy. And it's happened not just in your lifetime, but, like, in, like, modern teenagers' lifetimes. Like it's happening so quickly. I just think we've got some momentum going. We got to keep at it. And a lot of that is like extra electoral engagement, and a lot of that is also the fact that the squad in the Dems, you know, by operating under their wing, taking shelter a little, they can get a lot of messaging out that wouldn't otherwise be heard by so many people. Like AOC and her little Insta stories, or Rashida Tlaib censoring probably will open her up in the long run to a lot more positive press than the negative press she's getting now, I think.
It's entirely possible. I mean, it raises your profile. I mean, for sure. I mean, having that action. I mean, AOC's profile has been nothing but raised by Republicans attacking her constantly, invoking her constantly.
Yeah.
It's a shame she hasn't done jack shit with that profile. Same, she hasn't spent that political capital in a meaningful way.
I mean, she's one of the most
again, we do this is one of the things that frustrates me, right? Like the idea that freshmen or new, like far, like left-leaning people to Congress, right, are not using their political capital. And it's just like it takes a long time. Our bureaucracy moves slowly. Again, the reason we have a bunch of geriatrics in power right now is because they accumulated power and favor over the course of decades. Like, the reason that exists is because it takes time to build power. Bernie Sanders had to build a lifetime of capital, like of political favors, of knowledge, of insight, and ability to maneuver in the bureaucracy in order to run in 2016, and he almost became president. But that takes time. And, like, the other thing is, we don't necessarily know how politicians are spending their political capital at any given moment of time, okay? They might be stockpiling favors. They might be learning stuff. We don't know. We don't know if they've cashed it in to, like, get NLRB things through. We don't know what they're doing, like what they're doing behind closed doors. Backroom deals, exactly. That's how political capital is used.
Popular politicians in the country, and she has been popularizing left-leaning perspectives on basically every political issue.
Fair Spitfire.
But when the chips are down, she gets told how to vote.
Yeah, she does get bullied. Yeah. We all saw that vote with the Iron Dome and Pelosi, which is at this point.
I mean, that was devastating. I mean, and that just goes to show you that this hope of getting
I think she's a great advocate, but I don't think she's really all that great of a...
Yeah, I mean, we don't.
statesman or whatever.
Unfortunately, we don't need great advocates. We
Statesperson? I
need
don't
great
know.
actors. We need people in
I mean, we do need
positions
great
of
advocates,
power.
but we don't need them when they act. We don't need them in
Yeah.
the halls of power. You
No.
know, if she wants to be a cheerleader, that's one thing. But
She's just one congresswoman midst about 400. I mean, you know,
yeah, but there have been times when, you know, there was a time when the margins
squad was
were
a-
razor thin, and
No,
their
I-
little enclave could have affected more change.
Well, I'm not.
By
I'm
the
not
way,
a forced voter.
which-
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know. Which you were against, by the way. Yeah, the one
I was not
time
against the tactic. I was against the
no,
issue.
no,
they
no.
decided
I was
to
talking
do it
about.
on.
I was talking about Vaush.
I know. I
Vaush
was just clarifying
vociferous.
where I
Yeah.
stand on it.
Vaush was vociferously anti-force the vote, you know, basically the squad doing what we were told they were going to do.
I think it's more
Which is-
anti-force the voters. You know, the Jimmy Dore crowd. People weaponize that issue pretty maliciously. The fact of the matter is, no matter how good a politician is or may seem, they will make mistakes. Bernie's made mistakes. He's not even.
Yep, it was force the vote. Bernie losing and force the vote broke so many well-meaning lefty brains. Like, good intentions absolutely obliterate people with no ideological foundations. You know, like, so many people like got broken by Bernie losing. So many people got broken by force the vote. It's because they don't have like an underlying foundation in basic like political functioning, you know? Yeah, why hasn't AOC single-handedly enacted Medicare for all? I demand to see the manager.
Calling for a ceasefire right now. If we lowered our margins, if we narrowed them only to people with whom we will never take issue, we will never find.
Even FDR had the internment camps and shit. So.
Yeah, I tend to be
Jimmy Dore is an insane grifter.
Permissive of mistakes made by advocates and allies in positions of power because they're bound by so many invisible chains that we can't see as audience members. Like, who the knows what conversation Pelosi had with AOC. Obviously, I would like AOC to have like puffed out her chest and gone like, "No, Pelosi," and then like slammed the no vote down, which wouldn't have done anything because it was like 5 million to 1 yes in favor of the Iron Dome funding.
I don't know for an absolute fact, but I'm pretty sure I can give you a fairly succinct summation of what that conversation was.
You're right. I was being hyperbolic, Konnichiwa.
Probably that we would malign you for being anti-Semitic.
Yeah, well, no, it was basically this. You're a bit of a rising star in the Democratic Party, and that star will fade if you don't vote with us. You think you're getting any kind of support? You think your profile is just because of your charisma? Your profile is at my behest. You will bow to my
What is this fan fiction?
My desires and my whims, and you'll vote how I tell you if you care about your career. And she does.
I don't think that was exactly what was said to her, but I'll admit that I or neither of us know.
Who knows? So we can make sure.
I have no idea.
This is one of the big reasons why Bernie Sanders was so careful when he ran, both in 2016 and 2020. He knows the standards set for him are higher, so he has to be more careful. It's not fair that he has to be more careful, but he was smart and he navigated that environment pretty effectively, to the extent that while he was shit on by a lot of people unfairly, he's also generally accepted to be likable. Like, there was a lot of browbeating from the DNC and a lot of unfair play, but they never succeeded in making him a reviled figure. Not even close. He did too well. He's too likable. He's too much of a crotchety grandpa. So he smartly leveraged that image and was able to push his message to so many people. And now there are literally millions of Americans who've been inspired to left-leaning politics based on like their access, their exposure to what he said. You know, I just
literally
we have to be like the little fish that eat the plankton off the big fish, except in this example, one day we become the big fish and then we eat the other big fish.
Yeah, well, I don't think that day is coming under the current auspices.
It's getting better.
Homo sapiens, no one has said that, dude. Literally not once.
I mean, as we've pointed out several times, it's getting better and it's getting worse.
In terms of populist left advocacy in mainstream media, it's getting massively better very quickly.
And in terms of economics, it's getting massively worse
very
quickly.
But that's not a product of the Democrats shifting right on economics.
Yeah, and see that you're giving them a huge pass for saying that.
I am trying to figure out if this guy is is just so dumb he doesn't understand what he's saying, or if he is just I don't understand. I just don't understand, right? Like, the economic policies and the social policies, it's not like, oh, well, we got social policies, and like, because we had social improvement, that necessitates economic hardship. Like, why are you trying to make this weird argument that does not make sense? You have to let the smooth brain ideas just slide off. I can't. They get stuck in my brain crevices.
No, but it's not. I'm not giving
They
them a
provided
pass.
no meaningful pushback and oversaw the undoing of some of the most important legislation.
I agree, but that's not them shifting massively right. That's a continuation of the party duopoly's bourgeois.
Them deciding to allow conglomerates and robber barons to come back, and
they continued to exist. They didn't come back. They were still there, lurking in the background. Palpatine's returned somehow.
Like, completely and utterly obliterating the legal protections that prevented that isn't a shift to the right in terms of
I thought
politics?
we were mostly talking Biden's administration, but even if we go back
we're talking about the whole output of your very, very well-known and very, very well-worn tactic of vote blue no matter who.
I don't know.
Lesser of two evils.
I don't know what these things have to do with one another. It's a fact
because
of the matter.
You were just talking about how much better everything was, but a whole generation of people can't buy a house.
So again, this is spurious. This is spurious conflation. You would fail out of a college stats course. The economy is getting worse, not only between decisions made in Republican and Democrat administrations, but globally. As a matter of fact, America's weathering it better than most. Basically, every Western European country and most other countries that are even developed.
You know why, right? You know why?
There are a lot. Okay, if you're about to boil down why the global economy is faltering to Democrat policy,
that's exactly what he's about to do.
You're not, right?
I'm going to boil it down to the absolute inability of Democrats and Republicans to steward the economy.
Yes, I agree. Because
2008 was allowed to happen because
this is where Vaush stops being civil. Good. He's given 2 hours of his time.
Regulators were asleep at the wheel in both parties, and that's what caused the current global economic downturn that's never recovered from.
That's a huge part of it. Yes, absolutely.
No, that's the part of it.
Yes,
that's it.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it. And as you said, it was a product of a shared bourgeois tendency in both parties. Therefore, it's not really relevant to the conversation when talking about Democrats versus Republicans, or whether or not Democrats have shifted.
Well, it is relevant when the position is, shouldn't we expect more from our Democrats?
We should always expect more. What I'm talking about
I don't know if you're expecting more if you're going to give them your vote no matter what they do.
We're cycling. We've talked about this.
It's going in circles.
I don't think that attitude accomplishes
round
anything. I think there's a lot of evidence that my attitude does accomplish things. I think that we've seen recently, especially, but broadly over the past few decades, a rise in the prominence of left-leaning voices, both in America broadly and in the Democrats specifically. And I think a lot of that is because of institutional savviness that some of those actors have engaged in specifically. I think that savviness requires compromise and sacrifice, because there's no way to be some kind of hard-lined, principled, like super zealous advocate while also being politically effective. You kind of need to draw lines somewhere. And as a consequence of that, sometimes they do stuff that disappoints us. I get disappointed.
Why, Fenry, I do declare, are you implying there are countries outside America? You silly Billy. That's my I guess that's like my Colonel Sanders, my Southern dandy voice. Anyway, it looks like Vaush is debating 3 of the same guy. I mean, honestly, he kind of is. It is kind of what he's doing. All 3 of these are the same man. He's just moving so fast, it looks like there are 3 of them.
pointed to. By Bernie, now with the ceasefire, by AOC, then with the Iron Dome stuff. But I'm still heartened.
Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting perfect politicians here. They're politicians. Promises will be broken. Deals will be made behind closed doors.
No one gets where any politician.
I'm not advocating for some like perfect, ultimate, wonderful Democrat that's like, oh my God, they're glorious in every way and they shit gold, because that's never been a thing. That's never going to be a thing.
I don't think anybody's advocated for that.
Right. Yeah. I'm not expecting the perfect Democrat to come along and just be like this wonderful, magically good candidate. And anyone who falls short of that, I'm not going to vote for. What I do expect is a little bit better than this. This isn't good enough.
Well,
the Democratic Party as it stands right now, not good enough. Needs to be better.
True. That's why you roll up your sleeves and you start doing something about it. The other 4 years we have.
The Democratic Party,
I don't think
or
that's
Biden?
A reasonable standard, because it's been better in the past.
Biden is the Democratic Party. He's the head of the Democratic Party.
Well, sure, but there's hundreds of federal members of the Democratic Party with regards to just elected officials. There are different people, and the. I mean, I think there's value in distinction here. For example, we know that there are probably a lot of left-leaning people in the Dems who keep kind of quiet because, like most politicians, they see an incentive in sort of holding the cards close to their chest.
They're playing the game.
Yeah, which is fine. The more popular left-leaning perspectives get, the more likely they are to get louder. It's just a matter of process. We don't disagree that the Biden's not enough. We don't disagree that the Dems need to do better. I just think that this strategy for making them better and for providing better outcomes, in addition to the existential threat the Republicans pose, is different. Like, we differ on that, but I think it's a meaningful difference. And I feel like you've consistently tried to equate the Dems and the Republicans in a way that I find very irresponsible now. I think that the two parties are very similar in geopolitics and in their bourgeois tendencies. So economically and foreign policy wise, I still think there's a difference. I still think Biden's better. Practically ended the drone war, so that's cool at least. But again, genocide in Gaza.
Now he just sells those drones to other countries or lends them to other countries to do it. I don't know if he ended the drone war. I think he just abdicated responsibility by giving it to somebody else. Right?
Well, we sold weapons previously, but whatever the case is, like I agree certainly that there's a closer parallel here. When it comes to preserving the stability of democracy in this country, there's no comparison. And we need that democracy because, again, they will kill us if we lose. We won't get a chance.
Economics is social justice. People that are LGBTQ are vastly overrepresented in poverty statistics. The same is true for minorities, immigrants, and migrants. These are all the people that desperately need our help right now. And by allowing these feckless Democrats to sell our what do you mean I keep not engaging? What do you want me to engage with?
You keep saying in response to me, I literally just said I don't think Democrats are enough, but now you're saying, well, Democrats aren't enough. I know that. I agree with you. I am proposing a strategy that I think not only works, but has worked, visibly worked in recent times with regards to making things better. I think there are meaningful differences we can push for. All I'm advocating for is the right way of doing this. And I also don't think the Republicans can win. Again, they will kill us. They will end democracy. We will not even get another chance. It is like proposing any solution to our problems that encourages
how likely do you
Republicans.
Really believe that is?
No, I fully believe it. I think there's a real chance.
So you think Trump wins, it's done. Democracy's over. Full stop.
Yeah.
There's no
camps fire up.
It's very possible that he doesn't fully succeed.
From where I'm sitting, where I'm looking at it, am I denying that Trump has those ambitions?
See, this is what I mean by the death of the revolutionary practicality.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty unlikely.
Lenin knew to ally with liberals against the fascists in Tsarist Russia. Mao knew to ally with the government against the Japanese. We have to know which the greater evil is. You need to know both which the lesser and greater evil is. In your case specifically, yes. I don't think it's guaranteed. Like, it's not 100%. Nothing is, but I think there's a very reason.
Like gut feeling or analytical feeling or whatever you want to call it. Trump wins. Chances that there's not enough chances that we're not getting a 2028 election if Trump wins. What's the Vaush forecast there?
Total random guess, but I'd say like maybe 30%.
30% chance there's no 2028 election.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very
They are planning to gut the administrative state. They did a coup. They've already done a coup. What? You would think they did a coup, and that failed, and now they've drawn up a plan to gut the administrative state that constrained Donald Trump's powers, and you think he's just going to retire and like farm lettuce somewhere? He's gonna become a cabbage farmer after he's done being president? No, he's gonna seize power and never step down. God, this is baby-brained bullshit.
Very unqualified guess, of course. That's the best I can do.
Sure. I asked for that. I'm not going to.
It's a ballpark.
The fire on it. I understand. I asked for.
Obviously, there's aspirational in the Republican Party to make that happen.
That's also a far cry from the constant fear.
No, the issue, Fane, as I threw out there earlier this stream, like not voting, like when Democratic strategists see people saying we're not going to vote for Biden, they don't care. They reposition their strategy around more likely voters. It's not worth their time to play like a song and dance with people who are saying they're going to withhold their votes, because there are easier people for them to go after. That's just the simple calculus, you know? Like, I understand like the logic of saying publicly we're not going to vote for Biden and then winding up doing it anyway. But the issue is like the people who like analyze this stuff do not care. And that's part of the problem. It's not leverage to them. But yeah. The onus should be on Biden, not the voters. True. However, we live in a flawed political system where politicians do not do what we elect them to do all the time, and it relies on us to continue pushing for better and better outcomes from our politicians. That is like our role to play in this.
Mongering of like the camps will open on day one and democracy is over.
In fairness, 30% is a pretty scary number.
30% is a scary number, but you know, you want to know what I think? You want to know what my prediction is? More of the fucking same.
Okay.
More of the
what? So again, this is
wealth. This is
what I mean. This is what I mean by reactionary politics through abstemiousness. You think you're being elevated, smart enough to see the bullshit, like a South Park character. You are failing to identify the broad side of a barn. Like every successful socialist movement ever has been able to tell the difference, and every one that ended up dead couldn't. The Stalinists in Germany back during the 1930s couldn't tell the difference between the Nazis and the Social Democrats, the social fascists. Which mass graves do you think they were buried in? We can't afford to make these mistakes. It's pivotal. The Republicans are screaming from the top of their lungs what they want to do. There is no equivocation. They have been calling for the removal of the FBI as an institution.
They have been since I was born. What's your point?
No, you are not paying attention if you think that. You're vaguely gesturing, you're waving, I vaguely remember them being that. No, you have no idea.
I don't vaguely remember.
No, then you remember nothing. Then your mind on this subject is a void. This is incomparable.
Yeah. I mean, I think 2 hours is long enough for us to establish just head empty between those ears.
This is like you think the Patriot Act being passed compares in any way to the protracted multi-year-long campaign on every level of the GOP coordinated to delegitimize the election? They did an insurrectionary attempt.
The creation of unitary executive theory and its application by both parties since George W. Bush is another thing. I mean, the fact that the president can declare war without congressional
it's really hard to tell who's talking.
Approval is a modern construct.
Just again for clarity's sake here, okay? Right now we have a democracy where you can vote and the person you vote for can win. The world that he wants to build is one in which every single member of government that is either elected or appointed fundamentally cannot accept a victory from a Democrat. They were pushing to rewrite state laws on election counting that would allow them to throw out opponents' votes.
Can I
Except
ask
they don't even need to do that.
They've
been doing
a question.
I understand gerrymandering.
You can't keep a quick. You're describing the difference between like stubbing your toe and getting bricked with a hammer as like, well, they both hit me. You have no idea what you're talking about. What you're engaging in right now is not enlightened leftist perspective. You're engaging in bottom of the barrel, South Park, Cartman-ass tier, zero IQ, centrist, moderate, hasn't learned a thing about politics in their entire life, bullshit equivocacy. How dare you? You claim to care about the legacy of your union parents. You would literally preside over a death camp and go, well, you know, Biden probably would have done this too. Like, it's disgusting. It's senseless. If you genuinely believe that there is a...
This is the response, I think, 50% more of this conversation required.
Comparison to be made. I beg you to educate yourself because there is none. It is not comparable.
I think that there's an obvious comparison to be made, and I've brought up the reasons why over and over tonight.
No. Oh
and
no.
You seem to get more and more frustrated every time I do, but I don't hear an answer to it. You keep saying things are getting so much better. I'm saying while things got better on one hand, they got far worse on another. And you seem to want to divorce. You seem to want to divorce your tactic from that problem. When the truth, Vaush,
you don't need to divorce two things that were never married.
The truth is, I don't have a hazy memory when it comes to what it was like to live under George W. Bush or Barack Obama. I'm not 12, bro. All right, I was a tax-paying 9-to-5 worker during both of those presidencies. So let's be real about this shit.
You're literally doing the bit too right now. You're like, well, I wore my blue jeans to work.
Well,
you don't know shit, dude.
Maybe I'll remember how it went.
Oh my god, he's actually made Vaush angry. I think I can count the number of times I've seen in his content Vaush get actually angry. This is the moment. He's been broken. You can see it in his eyes.
Yeah, I know
you think is wise cynicism. Like, you think you're like, wait, Rick Sanchez? You just don't know shit. You do not know. This is why you keep running back to the same, well, Biden's bad. I know. Great. Tune into my streams. Find out more reasons he's bad. You think you're brave or evocative for pointing out that things have gotten bad, that the
you need to write a book worse? Like
everyone knows this.
How Biden is the worst thing to ever exist, and why you should still vote for him. That would be
99% Hitler, buddy.
Look, yeah, I know.
It's fundamentally disqualifying in a conversation about politics for you to pretend that there's an equivocacy between previous and current Republican attitudes towards the dissolution of democracy. This is not a. This would be like you saying, well, they're both equally bad on climate change when one of them doesn't believe in it, except you did do this, of course. I'm making fun of you. One of them doesn't believe in it, and the other person is just not good enough on it. There's no point in making comparisons. You clearly have a very strong emotional attachment to being a disillusioned, doomer, like cynic, for whom nothing will ever be good enough. And that's fine, but don't pretend it's politics.
As I am, so you shall be, my friend.
I'll be whipping around to like fake calm after freaking out when I called you a kid isn't going to make people forget about the earlier part.
I know that relegating lived experience to some dude with no teeth sitting on his porch going, back in my day, the blacks weren't so uppity or whatever is the easy way to do this. And I also understand it's the easy way to do this to just go like, oh, you're fucking retarded, bro. Like,
what the hell is wrong with these people?
I could do that too, Vaush. I could sit here and call you yeah, you did. You said I was stupid and simplistic and didn't learn anything from my life. By the way, by my years,
civility politics,
my decades of political advocacy, I didn't learn anything, and I got no idea how nothing works. You just think because you lived through a bunch of shit, you got a fuzzy memory about Obama.
Out of curiosity, do you genuinely think?
I like Vaush, but he can be an actor at times. Yeah, it's called being autistic. Guys, as someone who's autistic, putting on like a social leaning face is really hard work. Takes a lot out of you. It also means sometimes we're putting on a show for folks. Like, yeah.
Think that being like, 45, 40, whatever, means that you have like some hidden insight into politics that isn't possessed by people who are merely 30? Like, is that like the bar you fall into, where you're legitimately doing the like, well, no matter how wrong I am, at least I have slightly worse knees? Like, what are you getting at?
I'm making the position that people, when you live through something, you might have something to speak to that a person that didn't live through something wouldn't. And I think you'd agree with me on pretty much any other subject, except like if I was a Hiroshima survivor, you wouldn't be here going like, oh, you think you know more about getting a nuke dropped on you just because you had a nuke dropped on you? You know what I mean?
Do you think having a nuke dropped on you gives you like a degree
I don't think
in
you would
physics?
disagree. I don't think you would disagree in that instance. But for some reason,
no, I would happily tell a Hiroshima survivor to their face that they were wrong.
Hold on. I understand that the fact that I've lived through your stated goals and your vaunted bullshit my whole life. You think vote blue no matter who is some kind of like edgelord bread tube thing that you came up with?
Just math.
I lived it. I was you 20 years ago. I canvassed for John Kerry. I canvassed for Al Gore. I was out there going like, look, dude, I know these guys suck, but we can't handle another George W. Bush presidency. You know what else isn't new? This argument that you're making that the world's about to end if Trump gets elected. Democracy has been over every election if we don't vote Democrat since God was a boy, bro. This is not a new edge that you're slinging. You're
arguing against the concept of math. You're basically saying, bro, you've been telling me to breathe air my entire life, and you and it hasn't even fixed my debt. I'm still in debt. Like, what do you like? My student loans haven't gotten paid yet.
No. I'm not saying I'm still in debt. I'm saying I'm in worse debt than my parents were.
Yeah, then manage your finances better. Look, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, we've gotten around to this.
Dick. Manage your That's why people are working 3 jobs, right? Manage your
Got him.
Finances better. You posh, rich Beverly Hills, lily white, milquetoast piece of shit. How do you even open your bourgeois?
Vaush.gg is a show ultimately. Literally, yes. That's not a secret. I'm doing a show right now. God damn it.
A mouth to talk to workers. How do you even bring yourself to do it?
Well, considering the fact that basically all unions in America, except for the police unions, advocate voting for Biden over Trump, it's actually pretty easy for me to talk to workers. They agree with me. I don't know.
I'm the one that's making equivocation.
You have a very strong emotional attachment to being like contrarian on this specific subject. It's not something of which I can cure you. I'm not a magician or a wizard. I don't know. The best case scenario, the best outcome here possible is that this just ends up being another like tepid, meaningless whatever. You can continue complaining after Biden wins in 2024. I don't want to be proven right on this.
What a total dick, dude.
In the
manage your finance. Yeah, why don't you go talk to the exploding homeless population here in California? Oh, dude,
March of history.
You realize you're basically Patrick Bateman when he bent over to talk to that homeless guy. You should get a job, Hal. What are you gonna pull the knife out and slit me in my dog's throat? You total corporate zombie.
Okay,
you should manage your finances better. Go and your rich ass self.
So as is being increasingly evidenced, I think you have a very strong emotional attachment to this particular subject.
Yes, look, I do, because I was raised in a labor leftist household where we didn't
in a labor leftist household, and my parents were able to stay the course for their entire lives, but now I'm just gonna tell other workers to go fuck themselves by electing a fascist. Yeah, if you care about worker rights, you don't elect a fascist, okay? Jesus.
Namby-pamby around and pussyfoot around in politics and make doomerist bullshit.
Didn't you just say your parents voted blue consistently?
They did, yeah.
Then there we go. That's your pussy politics. What do you want?
Yeah. My parents also hit the line.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, nice.
I don't understand. If you think that I'm offended by the concept of your parents being harder workers than you, I'm not. I think it's cool. You know, people used to work pretty hard for their livings. Nowadays, They still do,
My
but in
parents
different
are
ways.
harder workers than me now. What do you know about my work history, Vaush?
About
You
as much
fucking-
as you've yelled
you
at me during
little-
the course of this conversation.
Me and T that was a famous scammer, so we don't know shit about work. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can talk to them about that. But if you're going to talk to me about my chops as a laborer, I've been employed since I was 16 years old.
You know which party tends to aggressively push for lower minimum working laws at a state level?
Which party? Go ahead and tell me.
It's the Republicans. They tend to
Is it?
push for that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, we got the Democrats to push back. Oops. Child labor's back.
Wait, I don't know why you're saying oops. The child labor stuff is largely happening under Republicans. When Dems are in charge of their state houses, that doesn't tend to happen. Like, wait, what? Yeah, there is a difference between the parties. I don't like you tend to assume there isn't on a state level. Never mind. Look, like it's like with I keep forgetting if it's Michigan or Wisconsin or Montana because my brain is small. But there was recently in the Midwest a state that just barely managed to eke out a Democrat majority, and as a consequence, they've done communism over there. Michigan, sorry, it's chat's saying it's Michigan, and then now also chat's saying it's Minnesota. It's Minnesota actually. They're doing like communism over there. They have like a one-person lead in the state.
It's true. Our state has a lot of faults, but honestly, it's been really, really based being in Minnesota, watching our slim majority completely rework the political landscape of Minnesota. That's what getting involved in local and state elections can do, people.
State house, and they've
Don't
been doing a bunch of insanely good shit. Like I think that the difference between Democrats and Republicans tends to be more pronounced on the local level because on a local level it's easier to win without being a big corporate stooge, whereas you need to be one if you're going to win presidency. There are too many connections to pull into there. So I think that on a local level the difference is more pronounced because like there are local Republicans that are saying insane shit with basically no pushback, and local Democrats that are doing really cool stuff. So I don't know, you can see stuff like that, and I feel a lot of hope when I see it personally, because a lot of those Democrats who are running in like Minnesota or whatever, those are like really left-leaning people. They're just running with the Dems because they have the name recognition, you know, but they are like pushing. I
know this is something that you don't know, you know, and I don't hold you to that. I've always advocated for people to vote down ticket and shit. Like I've always said, your local elections, great. Yeah, go down and vote in your local elections. Involve yourself civically to the, you know, I've never advocated against that.
Voting third party isn't better or worse than voting for no one at all. Literally, again, when it comes to shaping political positions of Democrats, people voting third party isn't something they really care about ever. So you can vote third party. It effectively has the same meaning to like political power brokers that allegedly you're trying to change to having different stances.
I'm glad. Well, then we should have a Democratic president because Trump has openly threatened to attack Democrat state governments to prevent them from being able to get done what they need to get done, both with laws at a federal level that would restrict the ability for states to sort of engage in their own jurisdiction, or by outright, like, for instance, Trump threatened to withhold COVID aid money to a blue state. I forget which one, though, because their governor had been making like some Trump critical statements. So wouldn't it be a good idea then to have a president who's not actively antagonistic towards those down ticket results?
Can I ask a question? I want to ask a question.
Hold on.
Yeah,
because he says I never engage.
Okay, go ahead.
Like that being a more localized election, I don't necessarily disagree with, you know, what you've said. They would be better off. My argumentation is not against voting in your local elections.
But like getting Biden
but I think that you're downplaying or maybe just neglecting to mention the absolute magnification power that federal politics has over state.
True, which is why we should have better presidents, I imagine.
Absolutely. Well, we don't disagree on that. I don't think Biden's it.
Well, it's Biden.
I just want to ask, you know, we talk a lot in here about the preservation of democracy.
Right.
And I'm kind of curious why that's even being tossed out as a value when apparently there's only one party that you can vote for, like functionally. I mean, according to you, Vaush, you can only functionally vote for Democrats or democracy is destroyed. So doesn't that mean democracy is kind of already destroyed because
Well, yeah, in this particular case, because the Republican Party is full of fascists. You can take more risks when your opponents aren't literal fascists.
Because there's only one party
There's
you
a
can
strong
vote for.
possibility it could be. You didn't say
I mean, like,
a certain.
right.
We do have like very institutionally cemented parties, but there is a very strong correlation for the most part between what people want and what actually happens in our government. Now, that's not a perfect relationship. Obviously, for one, like
I mean, I've read studies that say the opposite, that we're functionally an oligarchy, and that it basically
I'm familiar with the study you're referring to.
You know, you've heard this study, I'm
yes,
sure.
there are critiques of its methodology, but still, if you want to make that comparison to how, say, like China's relative like aspect ratio functions on that, it's not perfect, and a good example
Better
of
than
it.
China, great, good for us.
Well, they're not a democracy, but a good example of like a problem with this, of course,
neither are we really, but
is manufactured consent, where even if people
please
want
let him speak,
they can be told to want something by being lied to or being sort of selectively given information, and as a consequence of that, like democracy there is sort of a sham. Now, the problem with that in America is that by all measures, we're actually like a pretty democratic country. We're not perfect. There are countries that do it better, like the Scandinavian countries, but by most standards that look at this, both in liberal and leftist sources, there is a pretty strong relationship between like voter will and what's going on, and that's not completely captured. And in this environment, we have rights. We have a right to a freedom of speech, more freedom of speech rights than almost any other country in the world, which we should absolutely not take for granted. We have political rights. I'm not saying it's a perfect or...
I mean, there's a whole lot of issues where it seems like
we're described as a flawed democracy. If you look at democracies, that's what we're called. We're called a flawed democracy.
And we are a flawed democracy. And if you compare that to like the total list of countries in the world, or like the total population of the world, like include India, China, Indonesia, like there's a lot to be thankful for here. Now, again, is it enough? No, we should fight for better. But what we are is a lot better than, again, like Turkmenistan or Sudan or Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yeah, Sudan's a horrible one.
Well, it's, you know, I personally would not want to live there. You can call that my a white Western bourgeois preference, but, you know.
Chat, I just have to pause and say a lot of what Vaush is saying I agree with, and the second thing I wanted to say, it's really cool. We have over 200 people watching right now. That's really good for us. Good job, Riverboat Gang. Let's go. And remember to hit the follow button on Twitch and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. And remember to like the stream, you goobers.
Seems kind of dicey there.
Yeah, I don't think many people are gonna actually want to live in South Sudan.
And anybody who would get upset at you for that should go do it themselves.
Yeah, let's go do it. Tell me how it works out for you.
Yeah, I again, like, it's very worth preserving here. The different...
To incentivize you, we are a couple likes away from 69 likes on the stream on YouTube, and that would just be fun.
Here is very meaningful. Like, for instance, a good example of this would be that General Attorney Barr, under Trump's administration, with the Black Lives Matter protests, was pushing around the idea of using the Insurrection Act to arrest people at protests that turned violent. Now, this would be probably one of the most authoritarian things to have ever happened in this country. Like, this would be up there with anything Nixon did, possibly quite a bit worse. It was like very, very bad.
I mean, Japanese internment camps bad?
Yeah, no, it'd be in that ballpark, yeah. We were talking about the mass arrest of, at the very least, hundreds of thousands of people, overflowing detention centers, prison cells. We
already have that.
Okay. And then, very quickly, a bunch more for political reasons. As opposed to, yeah. So that was something that the last Trump administration was very close to doing, like very, very considering. That's just one thing.
I fumbled the play,
from the destruction
forlorn.
of the administrative state to Trump like openly threatening to sue journalists or like bring charges against them for reporting accurately on what his administration is doing.
Well, I mean, that's the goal of the incarceration industrial complex, which Biden is super cozy with.
You really can't identify that Trump's administration is openly flaunting their willingness to do the worst version of broad trends that have been problems in this country. You seem to be under the impression that there is a comparison between outright fascism and the fascistic tendencies of a bourgeois state. There is a line there, and that line is a bullet train called the Trump administration. The thing that brings you from bad tendency in a democracy to a fascist government is, in this case, the fascist strongman. That's what we have to be careful about. Yes, we have problems with our prison system right now. Yes, Joe Biden authored the crime bill. He's hardly bloodless here. But what he did not advocate for was the mass political arrest on insurrection charges, no less. Not disorderly conduct, not rioting, not disruption of a public space. Insurrection. Hundreds of thousands of people, potentially millions, depending on, I mean, they could have gotten millions if they wanted.
Well, that's what Trump's trying to tell to his supporters now with his trial, is that it's a political prosecution.
Basically. Yeah, and as a product of that, the majority of Republican voters don't believe in democracy anymore. They believe that the deep state is always out to get Trump, and no matter what happens, he's always the one who would have legitimately won. And this is like an anti-democracy through line that has to be crushed. It has to be broken and snapped and ground into dust.
Well,
country can't survive this.
I think that in a lot of ways, and we can disagree on this, your kind of stated objectives here and your strategies going forward are what's responsible for us having so little choice when it comes to our two parties. Like, I cannot divorce because like I said before, a little angry.
Yeah, Lauren Walker, what even is this?
Your strategies are nothing new. This is not new.
Yeah, voting, like choosing a less bad option when you have to choose one of two. Choosing the less bad option is an old strategy. Probably one rooted in survival of the fittest, evolutionary takes. Oh god.
Your strategies are nothing new. This is not new or revolutionary thinking. You accused me of not being the revolutionary thinker, but I think that means you think that you are, and voting for Biden is your strategy.
I don't think,
and this is not new.
Off the cliff is a new strategy.
The lesser of two evils argument has been made over and over and over again.
I'm engaged. This is the radical politics of don't shoot yourself in the head to avoid another problem. I think that a Trump presidency is a bullet to the head. I think that threatening anything which increases the likelihood of that to solve any other issue is as sensible as threatening a bullet to the brain to solve any other issue.
There's a chain of events here that happened that led exactly to this. I went back and I rewatched our first conversation together. And one of the things that stuck out to me was I laid out for you in that first conversation. I said, here's what I'm concerned with, Vaush. We vote Biden. We basically get a holdover of Trump era policy. Maybe a little sprinkle of good here and there, but mostly just a pause on Trump era policy. And then we get Trump again. And you scoffed super hard at me for that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
I said I
Trump
remember.
was done.
I did. I would never have said that Trump is just flat out done. I might have said that there's a high likelihood he wouldn't be as powerful the next time around. I still believe that. Also, 4 years of not shooting yourself in the head, that's great. I think you should continue to do that.
Not if you're a migrant.
You know,
what? Not shooting yourself is great, but not if you're a migrant? What? What the hell? What bizarro reality did I fall into here? This is insane, dude.
Migrants should shoot themselves in the head?
What? No.
Why? No,
I meant that.
It's
shooting. I just meant that the comparison doesn't hold water if you're a migrant. I don't think.
Sure.
I think that the first time around, Donald Trump was surrounded by people who didn't know how to use the machinery of the administrative state. I think this time around, he's far more prepared. He has people around him who are open fascists. No, I don't think he's too incompetent this time. I think he spent 4 years learning how to not be the same level of incompetent he was in 2016. I think he spent a lot of time assembling people who are going to yes men an ascension to dictator. Like, and again, most fascists are dipshits. Like, the idea that you need to be competent in order to be a fascist? No. Most fascists are dipshits.
It does. Trump was as bad or worse than Biden on this. There you go. Simple.
Trump, they're actually fundamentally the same on this.
They're not. The end
Trump
to the policy to separate children from families.
Re-implemented. I can't remember the Remain in Mexico policy was re-implemented.
Yeah, family separation wasn't there. Minor difference, big improvement.
There are still hundreds and hundreds of families separated.
Right, but Biden created a task force to reunite them and has for the vast majority. He's not magic. He can't like snap his fingers and reunite. He's not choosing to not reunite the missing families. That's on Trump. Again, like it's always like, oh, well, they're bad for this. They're bad for this. I know there are always things to improve, but I just like you don't seem to comprehend. There's a very
things here.
You don't seem
like,
to understand.
Like
well, no. You're advocating for making them worse. Is the thing. Like right now, no matter how much you pretend otherwise,
I personally think they should get better. I'm in
no
favor
matter
of better,
how much you close your eyes and put your fingers in your ears and go nah. The fact of the matter is, no one. There is not going to be some magical. There is not.
Is it better? Is it better yet?
It got better for a second.
Aren't you
the country
older
better
than
yet?
This is so bizarre, dude. This is so bizarre.
You wouldn't know it.
Legit, yeah. Jesus. Like God, throwing
God.
your baby toys out of the pram to fix politics. Look, you don't seem to understand that the consequence of your policy of your idea here is just
I don't set policy,
there would be
I'm not
fewer. I know you don't commit to anything because that would require a spine. But
I'm pretty sure I have committed to several things.
If you don't, the only thing you've committed to is a lack of understanding of the differences between Republicans and Democrats. Your commitment here is to ignorance. In this specific scenario, right now, things are more heated than they have been in the past, but the underlying tendency remains the same. You vote for the best possible candidate. If you want to change things, you have to change the systems. Changing systems is hard and takes time. The best way to do that is to leech existing power and institutions and soapboxes. We do that through the Dems. We see good outcomes. We have seen good outcomes. The math is on my side. The science on my side. History on my side. On your side, a childish indignation and unwillingness to participate in a flagrant disregard for the threat fascists pose to this country. Very leftist of you.
Non-participation. So.
Very leftist of you.
And neither one of us is advocating that. Here's that old crazy straw man again.
Yeah, you might want to wait till we're not on here.
We'll let the historians
decide. Yeah. This is definitely shit that I would reserve for the shit talk post show where we're not here to like call you on it over and over.
Like that's not what we said.
And by the way, I would like to add to further the discussion. You're just a big old baby, Vaush, and I find it hard to explain to your monosyllabic child's mind the very idea of resisting your oppressors when the world is burning. I find it impossible to elucidate to your tiny little toddler of a mind what the broad scope and the based revolutionary nature of my position, Vaush.
Do you appreciate how I didn't talk over you, so you could really focus on
feel, bitch? How do you like that? I'm not a child. There's no children present. Okay, thank goodness. There's no children present.
Why would you call me monosyllabic, but then make fun of me for using vocab words? Shouldn't you have said polysyllabic?
Ultimate autism niche knowledge activate. This is the autism Sharingan. Okay?
Monosyllabic is the word that I used, and it means that you only use one syllable because you dumb. That's what it means.
Is that what I'm known for? But then you said Amelia. All right, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
He suddenly realized he was bored.
I'm also not known for
bit you want to go for.
I'm also not known for being a uninformed child, despite what some of the people in your chat and community might parrot.
Well, you've shirkins otherwise tonight. Look, I don't know. I just okay. I don't want fascism to win. I am castigated. I am like Christ on the cross. They nail me to the cross because I believe that the fascists should not win the presidential election. In my corner, agreeing with me is everyone who does advocacy work for everything meaningful that gives us joy and light in our lives. And on your side, I guess there's, I don't know, habitual pot smokers. I feel like we've made the arguments. I feel like we've made our cases. We can leave it to time, history, and in my case, the unerring laws of mathematics to determine who is correct.
Got it. All right. Yeah, all right. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, you know what? One more thing before you leave, Vaush. One quick thing. It won't turn into a big thing. I just wanted to say from my heart, good day, sir.
Thanks for having me on, Lance. I hope you do well.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it coming on.
Take care.
Appreciate you. Have a good day.
Well, that happened.
Christ, dude.
Well, I tried. I feel like I could have been a little less mean at some points there, but also I really didn't want to. That's
Oh my god. Yeah, how do you even end off
that
of
wasn't
that?
planned to be a voting debate, was it? I kind of figured it would be. Yeah, I really do feel like it's emotional. I feel like there's like nothing I can say. There's like it feels like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes, because like it legitimately seems like, so first of all, like the first mistake they always have to make, and by they I mean like people who are like this, I guess, is they always have to downplay the threat Republicans face. This is like big, like weird South Park centrist energy to me, where it's like, well, both sides are bad. Like if you don't understand the difference, and he tried to equivocate, and by he I mean Paul's ego, because Paul's ego was the one I was arguing with like most of the time there. Paul's ego tried to like equivocate the threats between Dems and Republicans so many times, and he was wrong on like every one. The point where he paused, because the point where I said like it's usually Republicans who are lowering like
got here after they talked about it, but did you like the whole he should break their kneecaps advocacy? Yeah, you know, like I think I have to be honest with you. My entire analysis of this debate, conversation, whatever, is functionally that these people lack a foundational understanding of politics. You know, like there is you need to have like the basics down solid so you can like build upon those foundations with political ideas, you know? And it just seems like they failed to understand the most basic ways our system kind of barters power. And that seems to be the miscalculation I think a lot of people make when it comes to like the whole withhold a vote thing. And the reason I say that it seems like they lack this, right, is because unironically with the break their kneecaps advocacy, they kind of showed, or at least he showed his hand. Paul's ego showed his hand, right? Like, that's how he thinks politics should be done. If that was like again, if Donald Trump was doing it, it would just be called fascism, right? Like he would be intimidating his political enemies into silence. He would be sending the goon squad, the secret police, over to intimidate him. You know, this would be like a scandal of a century. You know, like wild stuff. Absolutely wild stuff. They are just baby brained, yes. Find it utterly selfish to disregard all the facts because you want to vote for the special person you want to vote for, not because it's politically strategic. Yeah. Biden didn't break their kneecaps. What a high bar. The best part there was the very end where he was like, I'm a big boy. I'm not a child. I'm a man. I'm a big man. I'm a big boy. Like he did the meme, you know? Like he did the like off tier SNL sketch. hey, the GOP might literally murder all the trans people, and the Dems, you know, won't do that. That guy, they're the same party. Yeah. There's a meaningful difference in international politics, in domestic politics. There's a big difference when it comes to, like, assistance to the elderly and the impoverished. Like, literally, who is in power determines, like, who lives and who dies, you know? And choosing to arm the most violent and power hungry with that power is insane to me. Yeah, Paul Digo, not the sharpest tool in the shed. Hi.
Minimum work age laws, and he's like, and look how things have gone under Democrats, not realizing that it was a state thing, and that under Democrats that doesn't tend to happen like that. Like, yes, you know, and then he got silent for a bit. I think that he just emotionally, like first principles or whatever, has to believe that both sides are fundamentally the same, because he grew up hearing that they were different, and he's sick of it, because he keeps hearing over and over, hey, why is the world not getting better? Even though I keep hearing, you know, the one side's so much better than the others. Why hasn't politics ended? Why hasn't good prevailed? And it's just,
yeah,
like,
why haven't we reached the end of this level? We keep fighting bosses and there are no health packs. What's up with that? Just like, that's what this is.
It's a child's understanding of politics, fundamentally. No one prevails in politics, not in the long run, certainly. You just fight and fight and fight. And if you fight good, things are a bit better, and sometimes a lot better if you're really lucky, you know? And if you lose, things can get a little worse, and sometimes a lot worse. And you keep doing that until you die. And that's life, and that's joyous. That's a joyous celebration, okay? That's a wonderful thing, all right? Life is lived for conflict, but not against your fellow man. Instead, against inequality and injustice. And that's the burden we're all born with, the burden of knowing we could make a difference if only we tried. And that is what we have to do, and that is how it works. And there are no cheap solutions or easy answers. It's always like that.
Yep.
And that's good. It's not.
You have to fight. You have to be willing to fight for it. Like, that's what democracy is. We gotta fight for it.
Not fair, but it's good.
I hate to gush over a streamer so openly, but Vaush's pragmatism really got me out of a dark place in my life and continues to give me hope. Yeah, I mean, Vaush is great. Like, he's right on this. And, like, you push things as far as you can. You do whatever you can. You influence whoever you can to move left, to adopt farther left policies, to turn out to vote, to organize and build political power. You work with whatever you got. Whatever hand you were dealt in life, you work with what you got to make things better around you. That's what you do. The idea that, like, that's controversial, that the thing that will make the world better around you is by destroying everything, by enabling fascism to rise, like, that's crazy to me. Like, how far gone do you have to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna press the blow up everything in a 25-mile radius button? That surely will make things better. I'm really upset with gentrifying in my neighborhood. Time to launch the nuclear bomb that will destroy the entire city. Surely that will be the paradigm change we need. Like, what is wrong with you guys?
Just got off work.
Not you
Spent my whole
guys,
shift
but
on a call with my GF with us both listening to you. Heart, thank you for the incandescent entertainment.
Aw, Incandescent. Hellscape Wanderer, thank you for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. I'm glad I could entertain both you and your girlfriend, and I'm glad you're doing good. Hopefully this has been a fun stream. I know I've been enjoying myself. And boop, boop. We're close to the end here. I think we can do it.
So that's one with the Republicans. And for two, I don't like when I talk.
Yeah, you like this exactly, Fenrir. You do what you can to help create a better future, even though you might not be alive to see it happen. Yeah, you fight for a future you will never see. You fight to give future generations a better world, a fairer start, a better chance. You know, a better shake than you ever had. This isn't controversial. But like, do you think it makes a better world for like the next generation if you like throw America down like a fascist path for the next 20, 30, 50 years? No. Of course not. That's not making the world a better place.
Talk to people like this, they
Good night,
never
Code Mode.
acknowledge that their solution makes no sense at all. Because they literally, the argument is like, what if
plant a tree you will not enjoy the shade from. Plant a city you will never see. You know, it's dream impossible things better than you could ever have. Like this is our lot in life. You know, to our kids, to our kids' kids.
It's unfair to edge chat like this. BWABUWU. Elephant trench coat.
I'm not edging chat. I'm really not. Oh no. I'll be right back, I guess. I mean, we hit the Eddie, I guess. Hello, everybody. Is Jack going to plank? You guys, why? Why are you doing this to me? She's stripping off underwear that we can't see or something? Oh. Well, Plank Jack, I am the plank. Have any of you figured out my riddle yet? The riddle of this? I feel like Fenry might have. You silly gooses. It's the underwear. It's the underwear thing. I'm very smart. No, but this dress is incredibly short. Holy fuck, it's short. All right.
100 million people just broke off from the Democrats and voted for this hitherto unknown extra party. You know, like what do you that is never what are you talking about, you know? Emily did very well.
It is literally, if you were to make, I mean, I guess it's a mystery, but it is a scam because the Eds run scam. It's not a scam. You guys just aren't picking up the reference, and it's a very low-hanging fruit.
While holding them Trump's fascism, nothing in Bush's rhetoric or political goals came close to. Yeah, this is the thing. Fascism is usually like a negative.
But I've had my Ed, and now I've had my Eddie.
Negative extrapolation of the worst elements that were already present within a liberal democracy. Like, Weimar Germany was already anti-Semitic, it was already reactionary, there was already a strong nationalistic sentiment from people who felt embittered by the results of the First World War. The United States already has a massive prison-industrial complex, already has a massive and well-developed military-industrial complex. We have our own issues, they're real, we have racism here, we have all these issues, okay? And fascism takes these things and uses them as wedges and like crucial issues to elevate their like hyper-nationalistic, you know, palingenetic bullshit, you know, their authoritarianism.
God, you know what? I make you this one promise, chat. I will never be the kind of streamer that uses the word palingenetic, okay? Because I know 80% of you don't know what that means.
And what was I saying? Oh yeah, so like pointing out, like this would be like arguing that Hitler's really bad. It'd be like being in like 1932 and me pointing at Hitler and saying, hey, that's really bad. And Paul's ego is like, you know, under the Weimar Republic, there's still anti-Semitism. Like, oh, reminds me of the anti-Semitism in the Weimar Republic, which is happening right now. It's like, it's so brain dead. The complete destruction of any nuance or meaning. It's very frustrating for me because I feel like everything that I said there was correct, but sometimes it's grappling with the fundamental unfairness that being right doesn't necessarily change minds.
I mean, there is a certain segment of the left to whom being right is seen as like the checkmate. Like, you've just played Exodia the Forbidden One, okay? Like, they think it's like the trap card, like, as if they both think it makes them, like, being right like convinces people all the time, and they also think that effectively that it makes them better, like being right makes you a better person. And I got something to tell you guys. Being right doesn't make you a better person. Having good politics doesn't make you like a good person. You can have the best politics in the world, you can still be a shitty ass person, okay? And I feel like there's a certain segment of the left to whom being right is like the ultimate checkmate move, even if it doesn't rhetorically or logically make any sense. And they also feel like it gives them the moral high ground. It's very frustrating.
Legit impressed by how calm and eloquent you were while he screamed in soy rage. I feel like I got in some really, really good digs there. I'm pretty happy. It's like, in terms of rhetoric, I'm like checking myself off and like, okay, what do we do? And like, it's like, okay, I mean,
first I find out this is just a show, and now you're saying I'm not a good person. I'm saying it's not the only determinant of whether you're a good person.
in my arguments, I got some good zingers in though. Like, you know, that's where
I try not to have a shitty arse though. You know, cleaning your ass does make you a better person. That is true. People with clean asses, just better people, just better humans all around.
That's all you can do sometimes. I do think it's kind of funny, like the idea of me being castigated for being a privileged Beverly Hills white soy boy or whatever, when the positions that I hold are very closely in line with advocates, activists, and union workers, where it's like, hey, go talk to workers. I'm like, yeah, you talk to.
It's true, Spicy Diarrhea. It's true. Though, given your name, I'm not gonna lie. You're one of the last people in chat I would trust to have a clean ass. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to generalize. But yeah. I keep forgetting what my name is when it is. Yeah.
The workers, dude. You talk. Go up to like a Starbucks union protest. Ask them how they feel about.
Girl, you just gotta eat your fiber.
Labor rights under Biden versus Trump's presidency. You know, just saying he needs to manage his finances better might make you look bad, though. Did you like really mean that, or just a joke? Well, it was two. For one, it was a joke because it sounded like a mean thing to say, so that was fun. But on the other hand, in the hypothetical that was being drawn there, I was saying, he was basically saying, I keep breathing air over and over, and it doesn't like take me out of debt. Basically, I'm saying like it's pretty stupid of you to blame the downfall of the economy on Democrats winning over Republicans, because those aren't necessarily related. And then he's like, oh, well, it's not. And then by saying you need to manage your finance better, what I'm essentially saying is you need to fix the problem where it actually stands. But obviously the main point there was to be a dick. So, you know, it's fucking. His argument seems so suicidal. Why would you choose to live when you'll die anywhere? It's this is basically like the this is like the end game scenario of like what I recognized in the Chapo Trap House.
Yep.
Podcast.
What did I tell you? I made that reference earlier. Bernie losing broke the Chapo boys, and it broke people like this.
Where it felt like they were more interested in demonstrating intellectual superiority and smugness over normies by being like too cool to get angry about Trump, you know? Like, put sunglasses on. Like, I guess it was mostly after 2020 and Bernie lost the second primary that things got really, really bad. After that point, it felt like they would, like, every opportunity they got, it would just be them demonstrating that they didn't give a fuck. And I don't respect that at all. I don't respect that. I am more likely to respect, like, a Trumper who...
Jack just admitting she pre-watched. I did not pre-watch. I did not. I pre-watched the first few minutes, but I did not pre-watch. Okay? I wanted to know if it was going to be juicy, and I figured out it was going to be juicy.
Authentically has bad opinions.
And not only that it was juicy, but that I had things to say about it.
A person who has arrived at this smarmy South Park-ass attitude. Amazing accusation of you doing nothing between primaries. Meanwhile, they do nothing and you help build a canvassing group. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I tend to stay pretty distant from stuff like this, but at the same time, it does really frustrate me when people pretend that all I advocate for is like voting blue, when that is like, oh my God, the only reason this even comes up is because people want to argue with me and have their own hot take about how if we all voted for Cornel West, we could usher in a utopian socialist.
God, Cornel West went from People's Party. He's gone through 3 political parties now. Like, what is happening? It's crazy, dog. People want to treat it like it's serious. It's not. Marianne Williamson, like, not effective, even if she has good intentions. Not gonna beat Biden in the primary. Cornel West, a non-entity. The only third-party candidate in this race right now that could actually meaningfully challenge either of the party duopoly is RFK Jr., and he's going to be pulling way more people from the right. And it's a good thing that he's running, because we need Biden to win to stop fascism. Yeah, like, even if you could imagine the Jesus of candidates, like the absolutely perfect, unblemished, without sin, perfect in every way. Even then, like, doesn't matter if no one's heard of him.
State or something, but like 99.999 whatever % of what I do is mostly like trying to empower the people who listen to my stuff to make better political decisions themselves and to push for good issues. The canvassing org with Progressive Victory, I was trying to build inroads in DC just a month ago, like going over there, meeting with DC staffers, like having a good time over there, getting drunk, very important. Like the connections I've made, the money that's been raised, the donations, the charities, the fundraisers, like I clearly care about politics holistically. People, I mean, you could argue that I'm lazy, and I am. I don't deny that. I do tend to be pretty work shit, but I think that when I put the effort in, I demonstrate an actual,
no, please
sincere,
don't, Salmon Moose.
Authentic interest in.
I mean, I'm a woman of my word, but my God,
producing good outcomes as I describe them. You know, with my political biases being what they are, I think good things are good. So it does bother me a little bit when people accuse me of just being like a sort of rally boy for Biden. I agree that there is a meaningful difference between TJ and Paul. I disagree with TJ on a lot, but that was obviously like the vast majority of the disagreements there was with Paul's ego. Would you say it was a good debate? I think I did a good job making my arguments. I mean, there's always more that I could have done, I guess, but like...
Yeah, it wasn't a good debate per se. It was like watching an adult speak to a child for 3 hours, who gets increasingly agitated. Yeah, that wasn't like a great debate. It was a fun debate, though. Very fun debate.
Past a point, it feels like arguments are less important than the zingers, but he brought up canvassing for Kerry and Gore's evidence that things don't get better with Dems even though they both lost. Dude, I didn't even jump on that because the idea that things would have ended up the same if Gore had been president in 2001 is insane. Do you have any idea? That's like the canon.
Yeah, honestly, look, in the primary, vote for whoever you want. In the Democratic primary, go nuts. Vote for whoever you want. Okay, but when it comes to, like, voting day, whoever is the Democratic nominee, and it's going to be Joe Biden, just in case there's any doubt, we gotta buckle down and vote for him. We gotta eat that stale donut.
Event. Do you have any idea how different the world would be if Gore had won that election? Do you have any idea? We wouldn't be in Iraq or Afghanistan. We would have responded to 9/11 differently. The Patriot Act probably would. Everything. It's like he's like, yeah, I learned my lesson about caring about electoral politics when super mega double Hitler did 20 holocausts after my guy lost. It's like, if the good people are going to lose anyway by a tiny margin in a single state where the governor is the brother of the other guy, and also there was the butterfly ballots and the Supreme Court didn't allow for a recount because it would have... Like, do you think 9/11 would have happened if Gore had won? Very likely, yes, but very slight possibility, no. The Bush administration had some limited knowledge that something was afoot, but the intel agencies did not give very much info because they were competing with each other, and they also were kind of like dick waving and didn't want to...
The Bush years were incredibly stupid. Like, even as a tiny child, like, just kind of coming to terms with politics, even I was like, this stuff a mess. This stuff is messy. That guy shot that other guy on a hunt? That's crazy.
give half complete information because they didn't want to be shown up by each other. I mean, like the CIA, the NSA. So it's possible that Gore might have been more like proactive on the bits of knowledge that he was given, or that the security agencies would have privileged him with more information, but I doubt that. In all likelihood, 9/11 would have happened. I do not think he would have invaded Afghanistan, but he might have. I know he wouldn't have invaded Iraq afterwards. No shot. No way. No way. No way. No way. He never directly answered any of your questions. Basically, everything that I said was responded to by him with, like, did you know that the Democrats are also bad? Which, like, come on. I know. Couldn't Congress have overruled Gore and voted for war considering the circumstances at the
Nah, I'm not going to make that joke.
time? Maybe for Afghanistan. I just don't think under Gore, Iraq would have happened. Afghanistan was like, and it kind of went out there. Iraq was like a big controversy. The Bush administration spent months lying and manufacturing evidence, lying to the United Nations, lying to the American people, misrepresenting.
Yeah, honestly, the American people should have demanded, like, Bush be tried for war crimes or something. Like, just something to hold him accountable for the way, like, people were lied to get them to support the war in Iraq. It was crazy. Absolutely insane.
Presenting like intel report, like Afghanistan was like, we hit the ground running in there. Iraq was like, they had to build an argument, and it was a very bad argument, and they went for it anyway. Is TJ spineless? Man, I've had good engagement with TJ in the past, but I do feel like, yeah, this feels pretty spineless to me. Vaush's responses reminded me when I was 13 and first experienced my political awakening. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I remember. The strain of fake cynicism and contrarianism present in arguments like this remind me of how I was when I was young. This was the time period during which I was a libertarian. Now, at the time, 15, I was 15, I didn't know what
cringe.
libertarianism was really. All I knew was that the big government lied to you. They did Iraq, 9/11, libertarians seeking the
That's fair.
truth. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about Ron Paul, reactionary politics. Like, I had a vague emotional
He paints pretty
attachment
pictures
to the
now.
aesthetic
No,
of
you've
being
fallen for
different
it.
and being like a challenger to the mainstream political hegemony. And as a consequence of that, my political arguments at that time were really, really bad. I don't think I've ever told this on stream before, but I actually had an argument with my father over this once. My dad, of course, has always been like a progressive lib. You know, Blue Dog Dems aren't a thing anymore, and they tend to be reactionary. But I guess, you know, he's always been like a big advocate for workers' rights and stuff. And there was this unironic, it was like a blog that I stumbled upon. This was back in the days when the internet was a lot more split up than it is today. There was a blog from some guy in, I don't know, I think he was in the Midwest. He wore a fedora in his pictures. Again, it was a different time. And he was an anarcho-capitalist. And for a while,
God.
I thought this dude was like the smartest guy in the world because he approached every topic. He wrote very smart. Like, the way he wrote was smart guy writing. You know exactly what I mean. And additionally, he would approach everything with this very detached, very cynical, like, they don't want you to know the answers to these questions kind of thing.
Of course. We all know this type. We all know someone like this.
I read a couple of these about like welfare and stuff, and like I was thinking in my head, like, you know, like, oh yeah, I guess welfare does kind of incentivize poverty because you get reliant on the government. Blah. Like, these are like very easy answers to sell to young dipshits who don't know how things work yet and are just looking to like be smarter, you know? Anyway, things eventually came to a head because he, unsurprisingly for an anarcho-capitalist, had an argument about racial science.
Oh my
which
God,
was essentially
of
about
course.
like black culture versus black brains, why crime rate, blah blah, or something to that effect.
My
And
God.
I read it, and at the time I think I was young enough that I didn't really get it. I don't think I realized that it was racist. I thought it was just weird science that I didn't get. Kind of like if I read an article about like how different shades of skin are better at blocking light, I would read all this stuff and like, people of like Jamaican descent are better in the sunlight because they don't burn like you do, white boy. And I would go like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. And I sort of approached it from that perspective. And I was watching this, or reading this, sorry, on the family computer because again, I was like 15, like, and it was 15 years ago. Yeah, like 2008? No. Yeah. Yeah, like 2008, 2009, something like that. Anyway, and my dad walked by, and he saw what I was looking at. He was like, "Hey, what's that?" And I talked with him for a bit, and it ended up escalating into an argument where he basically tore into me, very deservedly so. I would have had better arguments, of course, being the debate lord that I am. But essentially, sort of like fundamentally uncompassionate behavior on my part, which stemming from, you know, the sort of like trying to feel smarter than others, which he was totally right to do. I'm not like embittered by this in any way, shape, or form. The only reason I'm saying this is because when I have arguments like this is what it reminds me of. I'm reminded of what I was like then, where I wasn't really thinking things through, but it was very emotionally important to me.
Yeah, John Kerry
that
was
I
pretty
have
based.
a viewpoint that was that was out there and was challenging and stuff like that. Sorry, I rambled there for a little while. This is one of the reasons why young men are so vulnerable to that type of rhetoric. Yeah, thank you, my dad, for diverting me from the dark Vaush timeline, or the very white Vaush timeline, one might say.
Wait a minute. I just realized. Vaush is white. His arguments are invalid, I guess. Damn it. He's white? I thought he was Polish. Da-dun. Vaush is white. Yeah, look, I'm sorry. We've been listening to this man for a while. I just realized he's white. Yeah, I regret to inform you all. And I've also been informed that I might also be an alabaster disaster. Ooh, and you guys are watching me. That's cringe. It's real cringe. Throw him in the trash. Oh my god. Vaush is gay though? Oh, okay. It's fine. Fuck, what does it say about me? Now if you guys stop watching, you're homophobic. Oh, and thank God, I'm gay too. Oh, whew. Oh my god. All right, oh my god, we almost hit that iceberg, fam.
Points also means you're not accountable to anything that's going on. That's true, and that's why I mentioned spinelessness. Because to participate in the process is to accept some degree of responsibility for what's going on.
Fuck you, Jack.
Minimal degree of responsibility.
What?
Whereas doing this whole like everyone's shit, you know, throwing your arms up, whatever, gives you kind of like a rhetorical out. You know, it allows you to sort of you know, go, well, I didn't vote for the guy, which is. Yeah,
think I did a hate crime. No!
Blame if Trump wins. Yeah,
it's okay, Kyrie. It was like the Purge.
I QTP. I think I tried to. I just don't think. Is it all cynicism and delusional?
Don't forget, Vaush is into anime. That's terrible. Who would ever do such a thing as watch an anime? Not in my Christian chat.
I think it's delusional. The problem that I get is that whenever I have these conversations, I never get the answers to my questions. They always delusionally downplay the threat Republicans face because they have to, because otherwise they would understand what they're advocating for is suicide.
Yeah, no, what they're advocating for is effectively fascism, and they for some reason think that they're going to get another chance. Like in this weird deluded fantasy world, like they wind up selling everybody out. Like maybe in this fantasy world they're imagining that they're like part of the rebellion that like overthrows the fascist regime, but that's just fantasizing. That's just like dime store fantasy novel stuff, you know?
They always equivocate between the two parties, even when it doesn't make any sense to. They always pretend that there's some kind of magical switch you could flip to just suddenly move. Like they'll basically argue, no, Republicans aren't going to win. What if just like every Democrat just voted for someone else somehow? Ridiculous, insane. But like that's the level of their answers are on. I don't think it's just a big picture thing, you know? I think Is this just accelerationism? No, because accelerationists are honest enough to admit that they're trying to bring about a bad outcome in order to change the material circumstances. A lot of people who call themselves accelerationists are just reactionaries. They don't call themselves accelerationists, I don't think. They're inadvertently doing it.
There are so many people who just, the outcomes of the policies they advocate for are accelerationists, kind of by default, but they don't know that that's like what the result is. They haven't like stopped and thought it out, or they disagree with what the likely outcome is. These people are like the latter. They genuinely believe that like their actions wouldn't hasten the end of democracy in America. That's just crazy.
I don't think they're like covert Republicans or whatever. Well, no, you can be cynical, but cynicism isn't the same as being politically savvy. In fact, in many cases, they're kind of opposite. There's a reason why, if you want to know how politics works on like a institutional level, like a systemic level, if you want to read, I recommend going for Marx. If you want to talk to a human being, you talk to a liberal. You talk to like a liberal staffer. Those people know way the more than your average Twitter leftist or college radical or whatever.
They know way more, and they know how our government actually works, right? They know more about how to use the levers of power. Like, there are a lot of lefties in America who don't understand the administrative state and the importance of it. And like, we need to be able to know its worth and value, and we need to be able to know how to use it to actually like affect change, to like get Medicare for all. You know? You think the Democrats losing to Republicans will make the Dems move to the left? Yeah. Wouldn't they get the message that the country is more conservative and move to the center? Well, exactly, forlorn, right? Like, if Democrats lose to Republicans and they're finding that most of their support is bleeding off of the far left, then they're not going to try and court the far left. They're just going to court more likely people in the middle. They're going to move to the right in the pool of likely voters. Like, they go for the easier targets.
Else. And that's not because their opinions might be great. It's just because they tend to have a respect for the institution.
Hey, body with that soul.
The ideal leftist is somebody who can balance revolutionary
oh my God, I have
theory
not body
and revolutionary perspective with that
Thanks for coming out of the shadows,
systemic analysis, which of course Marx did. He did. That's why he's cool. Can you talk more about him wanting Biden to use the FBI to blackmail senators? Yeah, this is what I mean. Ooh, man, wasn't it TJ who said that?
What a bizarre thing to say.
Dude, fuck. Like, I agree that Biden and the Dems generally should, like, behind the scenes, try to pressure people into voting a given way. They do that, by the way. That happens when they all banded together to oust McCarthy, not McConnell, McCarthy, thank you. When they oust McCarthy, that's because they were doing, like, rigorous behind-the-scenes work to try to convince everyone what a piece of shit McCarthy was and why nobody should, like, for the sake of like civility, keep him on board. But the insinuation that like Biden should use this
Nikolai Prime
his intelligence agencies to open up investigations and personally threaten and harass a senator for disagreeing with him, dude, do you know what that would do? Like, first of all, I don't know if this would work, for one, because any kind of evidence they brought against him would turn into a protracted, multi-years long trial where, Joe Manchin would have, like, the best lawyers in the world defending him in his coal mining, whatever. He might not have even committed any major crimes. That's possible. You can be a crook just by following the law. You know, that's why laws are what they are. The crooks made them for themselves, right?
Yep.
That's one.
Got to keep those tax loopholes,
two,
baby.
Like, he would probably get a massive popularity boost with Republicans if it was publicly known that Biden was going after him when he's already like the most right-leaning senator who's with the Dems. So that would probably what's the term? That would probably negatively polarize him into being more Republican leaning, right? Because Democrats already don't.
I'm not gonna lie. Just listen to this sentence again. It sounds like something that like a Star Trek like sci-fi writer would use to talk about like a fictional technology. Okay?
So that would probably what's the term? That would probably negatively polarize him into being more Republican leaning, right?
Right? That sounds like something they'd say on like a Star Trek sci-fi nerd show, right? Excuse me, Captain. His particles have been negatively polarized. He's becoming a Republican. Also, hello, Raiders. Welcome, Mafia Jinxers. How are you doing? We've just been going over the importance of electoralism, which is kind of boring, but welcome. I think it's interesting, and that's why I talk about it. How y'all doing? What'd you guys talk about and do over on Jinx's stream? And Mafia Jinx, thank you very much for the raid. My name is Riverboat Jack. I talk about news and politics, and come make yourself cozy. Hit the follow button, you goobers. Y'all seem real nice. Ameliorate, ameliorate, ameliorate. Vaush is a Vulcan confirmed. Well, Vulcans basically right. Am I out of line for saying Vulcans are like a stand-in for autistic people? Because that's how I've kind of read Vulcans, and you know, maybe why I really empathize with Vulcans. No, you're right. Okay, cool. I'm glad you all agree with me. What are you doing up so late? We were going over this debate, which we have 1 minute left of, and I am very toasty right now in my apartment.
Because Democrats already don't really like him, you know, and Republicans would love him if he ended up being the face of like a giant presidential scandal like that. And
Q is
even
the best
if it
Star
does
Trek
work,
character.
like that's one vote, maybe. Okay, hope this never gets out for the entire remaining life of the president.
Vulcans are artistic space elves. Cool.
Joe Manchin, and if it might not even work. Like, yeah,
I should be
unironically
asleep.
advocating for using the intelligence apparatus to blackmail your political opponents. Yeah, does anyone else feel like if Biden did do that, they wouldn't like it? Like, I mean,
yeah, like that's exactly my point, right? That I made earlier in this. Like, if Biden was using the FBI as his secret police, yeah, people wouldn't like that. That would be bad, actually. That would be fascistic.
TJ Kirk specifically, like he said he should have done that, but I feel like if Biden had done that, it like that would have been like, oh, Donald Trump tried to use his FBI director to go after political opponents. Well, so did Joe Biden. You know what I mean?
Hello, Cryptid. Hello, Bugmans.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, Alien High Times. How you all doing? Okay, are we doing a fascism? I gotta be honest with you guys. That debate was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and that's how I feel like I'm on crazy pills anytime I interact with people like that, who are just like, nah, let's just strengthen the Republican position in 2024. That will have good results for everybody.